Good evening, Clashers and Clashettes, coming to you live from NGE Studios here in beautiful Burbank, California. This is the official Supercell Clash Royale North American Opens. I'm your host, Christian.
I'm Ella.
And tonight we are bringing you yet again the greatest Clash Royale duels you are ever going to see.
They're gonna be so great.
Your eyes are going to lay on no greater duels.
So over 500,000 people will be playing in these open qualifiers over the next 4 weeks. And from there, they'll move on to nights like tonight, which are the Coronation days. And 16 players will move on from our Coronation days to the arena battles.
Right.
And 8 will move on from the arena battles to the crown duels. And one winner will take home the grand prize of $15,000 of a $100,000 prize pool and get a sweet little trip to Supercell headquarters.
Yeah, and also go down in history as the greatest Clash Royale dueler ever.
Yeah, no big deal.
That there ever single was. Again, this is Coronation Day number 3 here. We already had 2 winners for our last 2 broadcasts. It was Ender and Eric, and these 8 players are playing for first place, $2,000, second place, $500, third and fourth place taking home $300, and 5th through 8th. $100 each. Again, just making it here is an incredible feat. Yeah. Before we get into who those players are, quickly remind you about the format here at the Clash Royale North American Opens. We are running the standard tournament cap with the double deck format. Each contestant submits 2 unique decks to us. Unique means the cards are at least 4 cards different from each other. And to move on, it's really simple. You just got to beat your opponent with both of your decks before they beat you with both of theirs, and boom, you're one step closer to the top. Now, let's take a look at who those top 8 players who made it to today's Coronation events are. First is Flash versus Chief J.
Then we have Swood versus Marcel P.
Third, Gilgamesh versus Flawless.
And finally, we have little sweaty face guy versus EsoPa.
Yeah, sweaty face guy. Some fantastic names. Marcel P making the return here. Now, before we get into our matches, as you guys know, maybe at home, we couldn't do this alone.
Oh, no.
No, we are making our way to the top. We have with us 2 gentlemen who already are at the top. So let's go over and meet them on the red couch with me, host and creator of the Super Magical Cup. It is Rainy. How you doing, sir? Doing well. Good to see you again.
And over here on the blue couch with me, we have streamer, YouTuber, and former #1 clasher, Rumham.
Great to be here, Ella.
Do you think one day I'll ever make it to the top, Rumham?
Well, you know, every season, they're going to reset all the players who are over 4,000 trophies get reset down to 4,000 trophies. So, Christian, there is a several-minute period every 2 weeks where you are #1 in the world along with several 100,000 other people.
Wow. So hear that at home. You guys could also be #1 as well. All right, guys, let's talk about what happened during the last broadcast. First broadcast, tons of expos. Last broadcast, not as many expos. Rainy, let's talk about who the winner was.
I'm trying to, okay, the winner was Eric, and I'm trying to remember how many expos there were. 4?
We went in the first broadcast, all 8 players had at least 1 expo deck, and the finals were between 2 double expo players.
Yep.
Last week, or actually last show, God, these are all 1 week.
Yeah, it's happening so fast.
Yeah, they're so much fun. There were only 4 players with expo. This week, right in the middle, we're going to divide the difference. 6 players with expo in this bracket.
Wow, all right, going down the line. So are we taking a look at what's happening with the decks here today? Any new ones? We've seen little previews.
Yeah, I think the decks are actually kind of solidifying a little bit.
Okay.
I've said that before and it's gone crazy on me, but so take that with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But it's interesting. Today we're going to see Giant Bowler Lightning, which is one of the decks that Seth and I, Rumham and I, believe to be what people should be playing according to what the meta came from.
Well, I've done my research, folks, and here's what we have today. We're looking at 4 different expo decks. We definitely have a good showing of Lava Hound, but Rainy, you're going to be very, very happy with this. Goblin Barrel. We have, I'm not going to spoil who, but we definitely have a Goblin Barrel player in the top 8.
Yes.
That is Rainy's, one of his favorite cards.
I love a good goblin
Is there a
barrel.
mirror with it?
No mirror. But a man can dream.
Yeah, we can all dream.
We got 13 more broadcasts.
Speaking of favorite cards and also
Somebody
kind of, what decks we're using, let's just talk about what decks we're using right now on the ladder really quickly. Rumham.
You know, it's hard to teach an old ham new tricks. I'm still playing Giant Poison, and it's fine.
Is it so good?
I'm actually surprised so many people have abandoned Poison, given that there's tons of Skeleton Army around. Like, as my Giant is crossing the river with the Mega Minion and all the other cards that are in that deck, dropping the Poison prevents a lot of the stuff that is very popular now. Minion Horde, Skeleton Army, even Guards are still played, so if you're a Poison fan, it's not terrible.
It's still there.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's been abandoned so heavily.
Somebody bring it.
Okay. Ella, how about you?
you just help me do my new deck.
She had her deck was a 4.3 elixir cost, so we had to streamline
No.
it a little bit.
You saw it when I added lightning in there.
That's true. You replaced Zap with lightning, and then I was like, then you showed it to me.
Yeah. No. But so what we have Hog Rider in there and lightning.
Okay.
I just moved up a level. So before my expensive deck was just fine. I was just crushing noobs all day long. But now I'm like, oh no, I'm not as good anymore.
You're in Builder's Workshop now, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
Just barely teetering on the edge.
Yeah,
there. We can do it.
Falling back and forth.
That's the eternal curse, though, right? Like,
One of
that's
my favorite parts of the game, especially when I first started playing, was just going up arenas slowly, one by one.
That's a great part of the game.
I love
That's
that.
the worst.
I love it. That's my favorite part of the game. To get verification from Supercell themselves that I'm doing well.
Okay,
That's what I need in my life.
you can see it like that. The one thing that goes with that is what she's talking about is like when you finally break the next arena and then everyone has amazing cards and so you're like, oh, it's like no, and they like push you back down to the
Like
arena.
three
Like,
cards.
You don't belong.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So right now for me, my spawner deck has gotten to tournament cap except for my epics. So I'm like, okay, I'm just putting that on the side and I'm doing a Dark Prince mirror deck. So I'm trying that out. But I just got wrecked by Royal Giant.
Everything?
So.
No, okay.
What are you thinking about?
Hey, Dark Prince right up there. That's it.
I didn't hear initially what Christian said, and then it started, like, the gears in my
Yeah,
head.
yeah,
started
exactly.
doing-
You're like, oh yeah, those two cards
Dark
that
Prince
don't
mirror.
go
Your
together.
face
Oh,
went from a
absolutely.
smile to like a really cringy,
Yeah.
Ready to have like one of those dark like clouds come over. No,
I gotta
no,
make a
Christian,
meta.
those don't go together at all.
I got to break the meta, you know.
Maybe
That's
we get
my
a
whole
little
thing.
help
That's your
pre-show. We have some experts here that can help.
That's
you.
true. Yeah, that's true. So speaking of an expert, what are you running right now?
Actually, I have no reason to laugh at you because the decks I build are actually equally as terrible. Because
Great.
I love playing meta decks, and I love playing decks that I know are capable of being 3K, even though I'm not 3K, so that says something about me, but I love it. I get bored of it really fast, though.
Okay.
So currently I'm playing Hog Rider,
Yes.
and don't puke on me, Hog Rider,
Whoa.
Fireball, Arrows,
Huh?
Zap.
Yeah.
I want to say more spells, but no, that's the end of the spells.
So wait, so is your idea like just send Hog Rider and just protect him?
I just don't want to let other people do my dirty work, so I'd rather just sling spells at them rather than getting like a poor little mini P.E.K.K.A that's gonna walk across the bridge and then fall apart and die on the enemy
You
side.
want full value.
I want full
Always.
value always.
Have you tried Tom's Super Buddies deck? So our
Buddy
our
system.
boss,
Buddy
all of our
system.
boss's boss,
Yeah.
plays a both Prince Hog Rider mini P.E.K.K.A deck. And he swears by because it's super aggressive. Like you never ever get a break
Yep.
from it.
Sounds about right.
It's,
All you hear is, Buddy System's unbreakable. Like you just hear it in the back all the
yeah.
time. It's like, man,
Super
we gotta
Buddies.
we gotta try this.
The worst part is that he's actually pretty good.
He's really good.
He's
That's
like
the
at
worst
the
part.
top.
I really love all the Expo decks we've been seeing around, and I've been trying to play them. But my log is my lowest level legendary, and I float around like 4,500 trophies to like 5,000 trophies or so. And my log doesn't kill princesses at the
that's
level
the
I'm at.
worst.
Supercell, please! I just need
Like by 1 HP?
by 1 HP. No, but here's what I need. I need more legendary chests, because when I get legendary chests, they have logs. Or Christian, what comes out in 48 hours?
Oh, graveyard! Yes! So unfortunately, Supercell yesterday was like, hey Christian, here's an awesome deal for you. Here's a legendary chest that you can buy. And I was like, yeah! And then I was like, oh, it's not gonna have graveyard in it, so I just did that.
Just wait for next week.
Wait for it.
They'll
Yeah,
come back.
we're
Look at
gonna
those
wait.
come back pretty regularly.
That's right. All right, well now enough about this. Let's talk about what's happening for tonight. One of the things I want to bring up, Marcel P is back. So he made
He's
it
the
to
first.
Yeah, so he came to our finals night 1.
Yes.
Didn't make it, and now he is back. He's our first return crown champion.
Didn't make it. He finished second.
No, I'm saying he's our first
Oh,
finalist. Like, he was one of our finalists.
Oh, I get you.
But
Oh, I
he
get
didn't.
you,
He wasn't
I get you.
crowned the champion.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Still
to be-
pretty dang good.
Yeah.
It was a surprise to me. Obviously, my choice for that evening was Marcel P, but Ender really kind of took the show by storm and played really well and stuffed Marcel P with some ingenious crossbow play, which, if you guys don't remember, Ender was running with level 3 Expo.
He was down. That's right.
I hear that Marcel
3
P has yet
skeleton
to hear the end of it. So here's how the clan systems work. If you're not really big into tournament clans, how they usually work is there's one that have the highest trophy count of all the players. And they say, hey, if you don't have high enough trophies, you know what? We've got Reddit Bravo. And down here, if you're not good enough for Reddit Bravo, we've got Reddit Charlie.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how Marcel P, the co-leader of Reddit Alpha, took it from his clanmates when he lost to a feeder's feeder clan. Yeah, and he's looking for vengeance tonight. And actually, I think one of the storylines of our 3 Coronation days so far is the major clans keep bumping into each other. We've got Takeover and Reddit Alpha continually putting multiple members in the top 8. Today we have 2 members of Reddit Alpha, Gilgamesh and Marcel P, on opposite sides of the bracket so they can meet in the finals.
Face off.
Right.
Okay.
And we've got Chief J, Swood, and Flash all from Takeover, and I believe Chief J and Swood have to fight in the first round. So yeah, so it'll be a clan Takeover head-to-head battle right there in the top 8. Well, we'll find out at the end of 16 Coronation days. That's true. But right now they're tied 1-1.
Okay.
Very good point. Very astute.
Well, so over the past few nights, we've been asking you guys to send us haikus, and you have been doing just that. So keep sending them our way. Hashtag ClashNAOpen.
Yep.
They've been fabulous so far, and we're having a great time reading them. Let us know who you want to read.
Yeah. Not only that, who do you want to read them? That's another thing you guys can choose.
We know
Mainly-
Rumham has some great mime skills under his belt.
He can impersonate like every single card in the game.
Yeah, not
Every
people,
single
just
one.
cards.
And we know that Rainey is quite the artist as well.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
we want him to draw
You want to draw the
picture.
artistic representation of your haiku? Guys, we have it. We have it all here for you. All right, tonight, let's take a look at our first match before we get into it. It is Flash versus Chief J. Talk about these 2 gentlemen for us.
Flash is actually a competitor that thrives in the in-game tournament system.
Okay.
Now, if you guys don't know what that is, and I'm sure many of you do,
Wanna
but
draw a picture?
let's go. Well, not right now.
Okay.
The in-game tournament system is a ladder system. So basically you get a certain amount of time and you can play as many games as you want. It records your wins and losses and gives you a trophy count based on how many you win or lose. If you win, you gain trophies. If you lose trophies. And then it kind of ranks you based on your skill level as you progress in the tournament. Very difficult, actually, to consistently score first place in these tournaments because of the way that trophies reduce the amount as you get higher because there's less people who are stronger than you. Right? So the first place player, for example, almost gets no trophies for beating anybody in the tournament because he's the top dog, right?
Sure.
Somehow, Flash is the player that can consistently make it to these top spots. If not the first place finish, the 3rd place within 10.
If Chief J can do it.
All right, Chief J versus Flash. And we are in the round of 8, and as appropriate, Flash has that Lava Hound as a featured card, and Chief J has the Giant as one of his big decks, and I think it's possibly the one he's playing right now. It's either going to be Expo or Giant.
Right, this looks like the Expo deck because of the presence of Ice Golem. Ice Golem was the most recently released card, and it's found a big, comfortable home in a lot of these Expo decks as a low-cost but really high-health blocker for the Expo once it gets set
There
up.
it is. You were absolutely right. And we've seen this interaction many times in the Clash Royale North American Open Rumham. Expo versus Lava Hound, and I think my final decision about this is I think the Expo is very favored in this
It's
matchup.
super. I mean, this is actually, I would argue, one of the toughest matchups. I think Lava Hound is a really, really strong deck that can beat pretty much everything but Expo. I mean, great players can play around it, but the big challenge for Flash is somehow putting 7 Elixir in the air slowly in the back of his base and then not getting totally dunked by an Expo at the river.
To be fair, 1,000 health on a tower, actually a little, close shave. To be fair, Flash isn't that far behind. This is where the problem starts, however. The crossbow being 6 Elixir compared to the Lava Hound's 7 means that more crossbows are going to happen in the course of the game than there are Lava Hounds, and when you're already falling behind in the race for tower damage, that's not good news.
This is a great time for Flash to drop his Lava Hound just like that. The Expo was just played, only 1 card, Ice Golem, was played right after, so he knows that there's at least not an Expo in hand, and it forces Chief J to go from the offensive position to defensive. Gotta defend this.
I think that Flash is well suited. He has Skeleton Army, perfect choice against that Inferno Tower, and he has a miner to assist his Lava Hound in terms of having a tank available when the pups pop out. But it looks like Skeleton Army will take them out, and now the pups will get distracted by both the skeletons from the Lava Hound, the Ice Golem, as well as the Mega Minion, and so Chief J is going to mitigate a lot of the damage that the Lava Hound can output.
Ooh, and all those defensive cards get to contribute to the counterattack. You saw that the Mega Minion was played to defend the Miner, the Inferno Tower was played to defend the Lava Hound, and they were all just sitting around very comfortable next to that Expo allowed to help. Flash has less than 20 seconds in order to deal 900 damage to a tower. I don't think his deck is capable of doing so.
Yeah, Expo versus Lava Hound, I think, especially through these few Coronation days that we have been spectating, it's definitely a tough match. Big thing about this is Chief J is now no longer going to be able to play his Expo deck as per double deck format.
Right.
And he's going to have to move on to his Giant Bowler Lightning deck, which I believe is his alternate deck, while Flash still has a choice of playing his Lava Hound deck or playing his own Expo deck, which I believe is his alternative option.
Interesting. So after watching that, does Ice Golem's death slow down the Inferno Tower's damage?
It slows down the attack speed, which, yeah, indirectly reduces the damage. So the Inferno Tower attacks every 0.4 seconds, and it has a big damage range. It starts off very low damage, it goes to very high damage. So when you slow it down with an Ice Golem explosion, now it starts attacking every 0.55 seconds or something like that.
I love how you know that.
Waving some
I
math,
love how you know
right?
that.
But that indirectly, holds off damage for a while. Instead of charging up 5 times every 2 seconds, it's now less than 4 times every 2 seconds, and that buys you a little bit of time to put some more damage in there.
0.1 second counts, right?
Well, how many games have we already seen that are coming down to 200
Yeah.
damage left on a tower, 50 damage here
Painful.
and there?
Yeah. All right,
It's
well,
a game of inches.
ladies and gentlemen, Chief J now up 1-0 against the Flash. One more win, and he's moving on to the semifinals. Let's see if he can do it.
All right, Chief J will be sitting on his alternate deck, 4 cards different than his Expo deck. I actually think Lava Hound Bowler is a pretty sick deck to play. Flash opening up with Miner minions, not minion horde, but well defended by Chief J. Only took damage from the Miner, which is definitely not the more damaging troop.
I believe Chief J has lightning and arrows as his spell choice, and arrows is going to be very, very effective against not just the lava pups, but the minions, and I believe the minion horde that is also in Flash's deck.
It would be interesting, and I think that's actually a great choice against Lava Hound decks. Players like to focus heavily on air troops, and so having Minion and Minion Horde, having that redundancy is actually quite popular. Arrows is by far one of the best cards to have in hand against Lava Hound.
It's been that Inferno Tower with no zap or anything. The downside of having arrows and lightning in your deck is that you can only really have lightning to reset the incredibly large damage that Inferno Tower can
Oh,
do.
perfect timing on that Miner pop-up, and the Lava Hound will or the Lava Pups will survive for quite a bit longer. Good amount of chip damage on the tower. There's one pup, and now the minions are going to contribute to that.
Wow.
That's a ton of damage, and Flash connects big. Big strength of the Lava Hound when it's successful.
Yes.
Oh my God, is it successful?
Fatal error there for Chief J. If you look, he's now down by at least 3 elixir, which allows Flash to comfortably put another Lava Hound down and not really be punished too bad for doing so. That tower on the right side of Chief J's is already within range of a fireball and a zap, so he doesn't have to worry about really dealing any more damage to it.
As we expect, now Flash will be playing down the left side. Giant is going to be the investment that Chief J is going to give up in terms of defense in hopes that it will convert into good tower damage afterwards. He's going to add on the log to that. So far, Mega Minion is the only troop defending for Chief J. The Lava Hound is about to pop. Where's the Miner? No, chooses not to go for the Miner. Because of that Fireball, however, the Mega Minion was pretty low health. The Lava Pups make short work of it. And Flash does a good amount of damage to the left side, and so far, the investment that Chief J put to the right side of the map has not come back and paid off for him.
Chief J was in big trouble. He used his arrows on the minions, which Flash, the minion horde player, can only be so happy about. It's a great way to bait it out, but excellent adaptation by Chief J, playing the skeletons in the middle, walking down the opposite lane, dragging the minions all the way across the board.
Oh, combo of the zap on the tower and the minion horde, plus that fireball guaranteed it pushed it into that lethal range. Took down the Mega Minion as well, and now things are looking tough for Chief J. Flash answers back strong with 2 crowns to earn the win in the second game, and so they're going to go up 1-1.
Well, Flash pulled that game out. I wonder how much of a Pyrrhic victory that was, because now Flash has to win game 3 with an Expo deck against a Giant Bowler deck, which we've seen how tough that matchup can be.
Yikes. If you don't have Zap, what's another good way to deal with Inferno Tower, since we just took Zap out of my deck?
That's right. Lightning stuns for the exact same amount of time, half a second. So Lightning is a much bigger spell that will do the same reset that a Zap can do.
Right.
Ice Spirit or Freeze will also reset it. Granted, it stuns the tower for a much longer period of time, but when it comes out, it has to reset all the way again. Yeah.
Okay.
Cards like Log that are normally good at resetting troops, like for example, Log will knock back a prince and force him to reset his turn, puts his lance up when he does that. Log doesn't do that, unfortunately, to Inferno Tower because it doesn't move. It is built into the ground.
It is stationary.
Yeah, stationary object.
So does Chief J have Lightning in this deck? In this one that's going to be going against the Expo for Flash?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Giant Bowler Lightning.
He's got it all.
Three
He's
big
got
boy
the answer.
cards.
All right, so
yeah.
if you're Flash, what are you doing right now? What's your game plan? If you know your opponent has those cards.
I think that number one is play your Expo as early as you can, because if you can sneak by damage to the tower, I think that's going to be one of the biggest things that helps you secure victory in this match. If you let the cycle get reorganized by your opponent, assuming that your opponent knows that he's playing against an Expo, he should never let you. He should never let you get an Expo off. So I think this is going to be a big opportunity for Flash if he plays the Expo right about now.
All right, well, let's see it.
Right about now.
In chat, let us know who you think's going to take it. Will Flash or
about
Chief J move on?
Now.
Only a 50-50 chance that he even has it in his
That's
opening hand.
true.
With
Now-
the Bowler in the opposite lane, it might be a decent time to cast it on the opposite lane, knowing at least the Bowler can't be standing in front of him.
Don't think he had it in hand. don't think that was a thing. So Flash is going to have to play this out honestly, which, I mean, Mega Minion against Giant Bowler is actually a fantastic card. Problem is, you're going to have to duel the Mega Minion on Chief J's side as well, and it looks like Chief J drops the Mega Minion in not necessarily an ideal spot, so the 3+2 elixir combination with the Ice Golem as well is going to handle that defense.
It looked like it might have locked on for a quick second there. The Inferno Tower is the natural counter in all of these Expo decks. They're so worried about the Giant blocking it that they use Inferno Tower as opposed to Tesla Tower, Cannon, or any of the other defensive cards in order to get it off the board and free the Expo up to lock onto the tower.
Just as a side comment, this is one of the reasons why I really enjoyed Ender's crossbow deck. Before, in the first tournament that we saw, it cycled so fast that Ender would have been able to play another Expo behind this Inferno Tower and continue on the pressure after the big bodies have been dropped. Just as an interesting side note about the differences between the way these Expo decks are coming together.
Yeah, I really enjoyed Enders as well. That's the one that the Expo deck I've been playing recently because it was so quick. It had Log and Ice Golem. We've seen a lot of Expo matches over the last 2 Coronation days, and this one now included, that I'm really a believer in Ice Golem in these decks over something like Knight, simply because the difference between 2 and 3 elixir is massive.
Here comes a Giant and Bowler pushing up against the Expo, and it looks like the Inferno Tower might be, no, it's at a good spot. Ice Spirit's gonna trade with the Ice Spirit, and that's actually fairly good defense for Flash. He's doing really well.
I mean, both of his towers are pristine. Like, he may not be getting that much damage in against the deck, but he's also not dying either, right?
Yes.
We've got about under a minute left of normal time, and then 3 minutes of double elixir because of the tournament rule set. There's a lot of opportunities for an Expo to run wild.
Good call out by Chief J to put the Bowler on the left side. Knew that the crossbow was going to go out there based on the positioning of the Giant. And the Bowler is going to buy enough time for that Giant to get in range of the Expo to tank up more of his damage. But he gave value to that Inferno Tower that was played in the last push. Uh-oh. Double trouble. And this might be... Oh,
the
barely.
Bowler. The Bowler saved the day right there by drawing the Expo damage towards the middle. The Giant was just out of range, and the Bowler taking the damage. Now when the Bowler dies, the Giant will be in range to allow the Expo to go.
Big Lightning is going to hit the Inferno Tower and reset it, but I think it's a little too late. Guards in front is going to stop the Ice Spirit from slowing down the burn on the Inferno Tower, and that's actually a key difference in Flash's ability to defend this push. Again, just a little bit more elixir pop down from Chief J to put the aggression on, but I think that might have been a mistake because now he doesn't have a big body in front of the Expo. Finally puts the Bowler down just in time for the second crossbow being added on, but on the right side, Chief J is taking a lot of damage from the Mega Minion. I feel like Chief J is falling apart at the seams, slowly getting into the late game.
Yeah, the fatal moments, I think, for Chief J, and he's only 2 fire. Ooh, wow, that thing's still going. He's nearly dead here. The fatal flaw there was when he played both Giants at the river on the right side. He kept trying to distract those minions, but Giant doesn't trade with anything. And since Giant wasn't getting any kills in there, he just spent 10 elixir to buy time and found himself significantly far behind in elixir.
Well, there it is. Flash picking up that second victory, being our first semifinalist of Coronation Day 3 to move on. Talk to me quickly. You said the big mistake right there was putting those two giants. Is it overcommitting on the elixir? Because we talked about he already was kind of at a deck disadvantage going into that one, but he found a way. Was that his opponent was that Chief giving it to him, giving it to Flash, or did Flash do something to make Chief do that?
I would say that it's very hard to tell. I think definitely, as evidenced by the result of the game, there are different decisions that Chief J should have made based on. I think Lightning was a big card that we didn't see used appropriately until towards the end of the match when he started throwing that out, as well as being a little too aggressive with his big body placement. You know that it's highly unlikely that you'll lose as long as you're playing your big bodies to tank up expos.
Gotcha.
So as long as you maintain that, work from there to try to make your win.
All right, well, we have our first replay. Let's go take a look at it, the Miner and the Lava Pups.
Now, the key thing to look for in Lava Hound is that when the Lava Hound dies, there is a split second where the pups don't exist. The Miner pops up there, and the tower locks onto the Miner, leaving both the minions and the Lava Pups free to do a ton of damage. We saw what we just mentioned about how Chief J would throw away giants and lost them to Expo. In that case, he threw away a bowler. That's 5 elixir that just got gobbled up.
This is a perfect example of big bodies needing to be saved. That giant that just died on that right side was one that was played at the bridge aggressively while Chief J's last push was still petering out. And then you see the crossbow immediately tag onto that left side tower. And really, it's those little mistakes that start causing Chief J to have to panic, to do different things. And in the end, he let the Mega Minion go because he felt compelled to play the bowler for the second Expo played. It's all kind of a chain reaction. You know, you make one mistake here, a player like Flash is going to cause you to make more and more and more mistakes and open that gap up wide for big damage.
Yeah. We were kind of talking about it being like a very high-level professional chess match. Like, when you make a mistake as an opponent who knows the game, it's like, all right, well, that might have
I
been
was
it.
really impressed by that. Like, I'm comfortable saying that we've seen a few matches in the last 2 Coronation Days where it felt like, while the one player played really well, it was really the other player who made critical mistakes and lost the game. I feel very comfortable saying that Flash won that game.
Gotcha.
Flash outplayed his opponent. The baiting of the right side, getting his opponent to play stuff on the right side, and then switching lanes and setting up the Expo on the left, I thought was really well done. Getting the double Expos set up, so just as before the one Expo even ran out, already having another one.
Yeah.
It was definitely an unorthodox game plan, but I was impressed. Like, that's a match that Flash should lose probably 4 out of 5 times.
Wow.
But he found the
He
5th.
didn't even have his go-to card in his opening deck, right?
Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's not as critically important with something like Expo, where there's a lot of setup to it. You're like, all right, I'm gonna get the Ice Golem on the board, wait a little bit. I'm gonna get, you know, the Mega Minion behind it, get ready, and then set up the Expo. But yeah, I don't know. I just think he sequenced his cards really, really well to play around the disadvantages of that matchup.
All right, well, next we have Swood versus Marcel P. Marcel P, again, a returning Coronation Dayer. No, I guess we can say that. Swood, what was the deck that, did you see what deck he was running?
Well, I think he was one of the Expo players. I think he is similar to what we saw out of Chief J there, where he's running Expo and Giant Bowler Lightning. I believe so. I believe so.
Cool.
He's another member of TakeOver, and I believe a lot of the TakeOver players brought very similar decks. They all brought nearly identical Expo decks, and then the only difference was whether you were playing Giant Bowler or Lava Hound as your second deck.
All right, sweet.
That's awesome.
Well, the second game of today is underway. Swood versus Marcel P. Let's see if Marcel's got those Expos again. Swood definitely. No, Marcel does.
Marcel P has a Barbarian Hut? I'd be surprised if he actually has a Barbarian Hut in his deck. I'm pretty sure he's playing an Expo deck for one and a Minor Furnace deck in the other, so glad that we get to see that card, though. It's not one that we often do get to enjoy.
I will back you up there. This, I believe from looking at this deck already, it is an Expo deck.
As well as Swood having the balloon, I don't think I saw any balloons there.
You know what? Shout out to Marcel P. learning from his Feeders clanmate, Ender. This is a list running both Log and Ice Golem, which, if you remember, was the fatal deck that he lost 3 games in a row to in the finals at the first Coronation Day.
I think admitting when there is a stronger deck and adjusting is a sign of a true champion. But let's see if Marcel P will actually be successful in converting that into another finals placement and hopefully a first place win, but Swood is making a big case for himself being the big winner. Bowler does a ton of damage on the right side, and again, I mean, we just saw this deck matchup in the last match between Flash and Chief J. Big bodies versus Expo, not an easy time.
Not at all. Now, the Inferno Tower is something that he's really going to have to rely on to get those things off the board. He may not even want to necessarily play an Expo aggressively, but rather sit back, invest Elixir like Ice Golem and Mega Minion in the back, use the Inferno Tower to counter the inevitable attack, and then set up the Expo as soon as that giant bowler go down.
Right, bowler in the back spot. And Marcel P is passing by playing guards and will opt to play his Expo instead. Ice Spirit's going to tank for just a little bit and give Swood just enough time to drop the giant down. Perfect execution from Swood's side, and Swood is making it tough for Marcel P to really make any headway in this matchup.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the toughest thing. If your opponent just never, ever, ever plays the giant, then it's really hard to ever set up an Expo comfortably. The big critical moment in the last match we saw was that Chief J decided to go for it and played a giant behind the King Tower. I don't know if Swood's going to make that same mistake. Well, there's a giant on the field now, but where's that Expo? Probably deciding to pass on it.
Log is such a great card against guards, takes down all their shields. Ooh, a big lightning, and Bowler's out on the field. The Ice Golem's trying to tank up most of the Bowler's hits, but gets cleaved on the guards, and now the Giant is going to get a few good swings off in spell range, and Lightning will take care of that. So 20 seconds is a lifeline Marcel P has, and I really don't think the crossbow is going to be able to do it in that time.
Yeah, not at all. There's always a Lightning that can come out at any time and end the game. I just don't think it happened. I think Swood played that very conservatively, but downside for Swood is that Giant Bowler deck is off, and now he's got to win an Expo mirror match, or, of course, against Marcel's other deck, an Expo mirror match against one of the best Siege players in the game.
Not an easy thing to come back from.
Not at all.
Well, as we saw in the beginning there was a big offensive push. And sometimes when my opponents come at me with something like that, I just feel like I'm stuck there trying to defend, and I don't know how to come back. How do you do that?
I think you have to know your deck really well, right? A lot of that comes down to mastering your deck and knowing very comfortably, I see Giant Bowler, I know I need Inferno Tower. Then you look, do I have Inferno Tower? No. What's my second priority? Well, sometimes you don't have it, right? What's my second priority card? Well, a lot of times you're looking for low-cost cards, things like Ice Golem, Ice Spirit, just to get them out of your hand and keep drawing cards out of your deck. We saw that early when the push was coming down. You just saw, Ice Spirit, Zap, Log, whatever. Just anything out of your hand to try to get to that Inferno Tower, the key card you needed to hold off. He ended up resisting it, but after taking 1,400 damage, it didn't take much more for Swood just to lightning him out of the game on future pushes.
Yeah. Well, a great start out for Swood here. Rainey, one thing I want to talk about is I remember from the last broadcast, we were mentioning how Marcel P, the deck that he lost with was that Siege one where he kind of put the Tesla in while the next save gets underway. Talk to me really quickly about trying to use the same style of deck, but just switching out a couple cards.
I think using the same style of deck and switching out a couple of cards is really tough to do, especially within the context of Siege, because Siege is so exact, and now there are multiple Siege decks, multiple crossbow decks that seem to be fairly effective, so that might be mitigated a little bit, but even so, when you think about some core cards of Siege, the Inferno Tower, the Log, things like perhaps even the Skeleton Army or the Ice Golem, I mean, we saw Marcel P paid the ultimate price for it in the first Coronation Day, losing to Ender and really losing on that second deck that he built.
Wow, and I know that I was saying Marcel P is favored as one of the better Expo players, but that was a great opening exchange for Swood, getting 1,300 damage plus on the tower. Looks like Swood had a good Expo setup in his opening hand, going Ice Spirit, Ice Golem, Expo. Marcel P was struggling, still hasn't played one yet, trying to get out those Inferno Towers as much as possible.
Guards with their shield effect do not actually get taken down immediately by the Fireball, and just a little bit, still took a lot of damage from that.
About 300 there.
The question is, Marcel P has had to scramble on defense, and he's played a lot of Elixir. When is it finally going to be his time to attack?
It's a very good point. He's already behind. If you see, he's a 2 Elixir disadvantage, and that comes from those early exchanges, him not having the exact cards. Kind of to Ella's point, didn't have the exact cards in his opening hand, whereas Swood was happy to set the Expo, and in that flailing struggle to defend, fell a little behind, and that just keeps compounding with each exchange.
Here we see again, Marcel P is going to concede Expo advantage to Swood for one more time, and one more time does the Expo lock onto the tower, and Marcel P only now I feel like, no, they're still even on Elixir. He just cannot get a foothold on this match.
it's very, very tough because there's not a good card in Marcel P's deck, or really either of their decks, to get rid of the guards. The guards seem like the big MVP here. They're gumming up the Inferno Towers. Log takes their shields off, but they're still there. They're still blocking stuff.
The Ice Golem will tank a bit for the Mega Minion and is slowed down, but the Mega Minion actually wins the air-to-air duel. Air superiority goes over to Marcel P, and he's got a very, very healthy Expo, but the cycle is just a little bit too punishing for Marcel P, and Swood gets back his Mega Minion almost immediately afterwards.
And I think Marcel P has got to get into urgent mode because that tower on the right is only one fireball away from losing the game, or from going down. And I believe Swood can just fireball the Expo and the tower right now if he wants.
Yeah, I believe so as well. And wow, Swood actually 2-0, sweeping Marcel P out of the round.
Wait, there's
of
still
8.
5 seconds.
There's still 5 seconds, you believe, Christian?
I believe, Marcel P. You got this.
He
All right.
is giving him the good luck.
Well,
and the thumbs
there
up.
it is. Swood taking a 2-0 against someone who made it to the finals on Coronation Day 1. Swood is now a semi-finalist here. He's joining Flash. We have 2 more round of 8s to go before we get to our 4 semi-finals. But congratulations to moving on up.
Poor Marcel P. He walks away with a Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, that's a great thing to walk away
Yeah.
with.
That's a mere consolation prize. This is twice now that Marcel P has been the bridesmaid, but not the bride.
Stings.
We have 13 more Coronation Days to go, though. He has
I'll be
several qualifier tickets already, so I imagine that we will see Marcel P in future top 8s.
There we go.
Awesome. Well, let's take a look at our first replay, Giant Lightning.
What
was happening here?
Strong combo, as we saw many times in the replays last Coronation. Giant Lightning is just one of those things that synergizes so well. The things that you would expect to use to counter Giants are very vulnerable to Lightning, as well as just any other troop, say a mini P.E.K.K.A. or a Musketeer, or even a Mega Minion is a pretty good target for Lightning.
Absolutely, and we see right away, this is the very early game here. He had the Inferno Tower and was trying to use it on the Ice Golem. If there was no other cards there, that Inferno Tower would have gobbled up the Ice Golem and then the Expo as well, but the guards really got in the way, wasted a lot of the Inferno Tower's time and damage, and allowed the Expo not just to shoot it down, but then lock onto the tower for immense damage.
So I noticed. Oh.
Go ahead.
I noticed they use guards against the Expo a lot. Is that a good play or?
Yeah, the Expo doesn't do a lot of damage with each shot. It just shoots very quickly. And against really high health units like the Giant, it really is only going to take off some of their health.
How much?
Anything that has a lot of bodies is going to be good. Barbarians are really good, things like that. Guards are just great because they're cheap. As soon as you see the Expo, you have 4 seconds until it starts firing. So just put anything on the field. Guards are cheap, Ice Golem is cheap. The problem with Inferno Tower is that once it kills something and locks onto a new target, it has to heat up again and do the damage all over. So compared to Ice Golem, where it locks on and goes, whoa, 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 you're dead, and that's it, Ice Golem's off the board, it's gonna, okay, I kill one guard, next guard, yeah.
That'd be crazy.
It's tough.
One thing, Renee, I want you to talk to me about, because this is something I experience a lot, is when I see my tower in a range where I know my opponent can take it down. Let's say there's a minute left and already I'm about to go down to a fireball. How, because I lose my cool in that situation. Talk to me, just let people know how hard it is to maintain your thought process. Okay, this tower basically got to consider gone, and also now defending against your opponent doing something on the other lane.
Yeah, it also depends on what your opponent invests, right? So if it's 1 minute out, maybe your opponent doesn't want to spell down that tower, because if he just uses a fireball just to make sure that tower goes down, he's 4 elixir down, and unless you played something in for him to fireball, then he's not going to be willing to make that investment until it's overtime. Sure. There's actually no reason why he would commit that elixir until overtime. He can actually just save all his elixir and defend and defend and defend, wait until overtime happens, then throw the fireball, because then he instantly wins the game.
What a jerk.
There's no chance for a counterattack.
And we saw that actually in game 1 of the Swood Marcel series. Was the tower was only a log and a fireball away from dying. Mega Minion was played near Marcel P's tower, and Swood just took the opportunity, like, oh, I know I need to fireball this tower anyways, might as well just do it now, right?
2 for 1.
Or it was a zap, actually. It was zap and fireball, because even though he spent 6 to deal 3, he did kill the Mega Minion and took the tower, which he was going to have to do at some point.
That's super worth. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you're now just tuning in, let's go ahead and pull up the bracket of what has happened on so far. Up first, we had Flash versus Chief J. Flash moved on from there. And what you guys just saw was Swood versus Marcel P. Swood 2-0 against Marcel P. So those are our first 2 semi-finalists. Coming up next will be Gilgamesh versus Flawless, and finally, we're calling him Sweaty Face,
What
Sweat Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like Sweaty.
Sweaty.
Sweaty?
We'll
Just
have
sweaty.
Sweaty
Just sweaty.
versus EsoPa.
I like face guy. Let's go with face guy.
Face guy.
So, as we talked about earlier, our players are playing in the Coronation days right now, and they will move on, the winners will move on to the arena battles, 16 of them, and from the arena battles, 8 will move on to the crown duels, and one winner will take home a $15,000 prize and a trip to the headquarters of Supercell.
Not only are they taking home big old money cash, but they're also going to go to the game that they are, the creators of the game that they are themselves playing. That's got to be an amazing experience.
Here it's pretty good.
You ever been to Finland?
No.
Finland?
That's where the Helsinki,
Yeah.
Finland is where they're going. It's awesome country, very beautiful, lots of awesome landmarks, and of course Supercell's very generous hosts. It'll be a very fun thing for them to do.
And
That's
today,
pretty awesome.
this is what these guys are playing for. First place, taking them $2,000 and that chance to move on. Second place, $500. Third and fourth, $300. And finally, fifth through eighth, $100. So again, these guys just making it here an amazing thing. All day they've been playing against 40,000 already. Over 40,000 people have been to our open qualifiers. They've made it through all of this, so they're already the top players right now in Clash Royale. Up next, Gilgamesh versus Flawless. Two guys, we haven't seen their names here. Any buzz about them in the community?
Well, one thing that we can say for sure is that Gilgamesh is now the lone representative of Reddit in the tournament now.
Oh, okay.
Marcel P got booted.
All right.
Flash made it on, and Chief J I think was the other takeover guy. So
Takeovers are in.
takeover is guaranteed to go to the finals,
All right,
right?
Reddit.
Because it's either one of the two. Gilgamesh has his work cut out for him if he wants to represent Reddit.
Reddit on his shoulders.
Yes.
That's a lot. That's a lot of people.
It's a lot of
there.
Reddit.
A lot of Reddit men.
With a name like Flawless, I assume that he's won every tournament
Ever.
ever entered.
Ever they've
so
ever
that
done.
seems
Ever.
like he might be the favorite in the match.
All right. Well, ladies and
Okay.
gentlemen, let us know who you think it is going to be. Gilgamesh
Flawless.
or Flawless.
Gilgamesh. Wah, wah, wah.
Wah, 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 indeed.
All right.
Hey.
Minor Furnace, and this
Furnace.
is actually the deck that I wanted to see out of Marcel P, but couldn't. But I mean, he didn't have
it
the
was his
opportunity.
alternate deck. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes, you're right. So Gilgamesh opens with a Minor Furnace deck, pretty strong actually against all these recent Expo decks out there. The Fire Spirits can absorb a couple Expo shots each, and of course they just jump on the guards, on the splash around and try to hit the Expo and anything in front of it. And even if you get through the Fire Spirits, of course there's a pretty high health building for only 4 elixir that can absorb those Expo bolts.
Yes, as a 4 elixir answer, and just putting it down in the grand scheme of the match, just kind of to pass the turn, the Furnace can almost never go wrong in this matchup in many ways.
Gilgamesh finds himself very far behind after that exchange. He spent 6 elixir on both the Miner and the Skeleton Army, got completely wiped off the board by Flawless's 5 elixir of Skeleton Army plus Log. He took some damage for it too.
All right, and here you're going to see the first interaction between Furnace and Expo. It's going to take down that Musketeer, but going to have to lock onto the Furnace before it actually gets to the tower. Skeleton Army to buy a little bit more time. Big problem I'm seeing for Gilgamesh right now is he hasn't actually been able to get onto the Expo itself. And I think that's really where you need to fight hard for that air superiority. You need to make sure that your Mega Minion can connect with those cards. Otherwise, you take that much damage. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Flawless has a little bit of an advantage here in that he can set up the Expo on the opposite side of the Furnace. If Gilgamesh is playing his Furnace, before the Expo, Gilgamesh controls the direction of the Fire Spirits, which gives Flawless an opportunity to go the other way. Now Gilgamesh should probably play the Furnace right, directly into it.
Yeah, played a little bit close. He wanted to make sure they didn't make any errors in positioning, but we'll see if that comes down to bite him in the butt, and I think it kind of did. The Fireball took down the Furnace and the Musketeer, and that's incredible value for a spell, that spell that Flawless threw out there. Won the air duel, the Mega Minion will survive, but big problem is it was just a little bit too late. Because he had suffered so much damage before, his tower ends up going down anyways.
Yeah, the newly popular Skeleton Army is a very good tool against Miner decks because it's such a large spread of troops that you can play it kind of anywhere around the tower, and it's very hard for the Miner to find a spot where it locks onto the tower instead of just fighting legions of skeletons.
Now this is probably the position Gilgamesh wanted to be in right from the start in terms of defending against the Expo. Good positioning on the Furnace, and also well-timed. Had the Fire Spirits tank up first and then the actual building itself, and good positioning on the Musketeer to handle that spot. But it's just too little too late, and I have to feel like Gilgamesh needed to fine-tune a little bit the execution of his deck rather than the actual deck matchup itself.
I can agree with that. The deck has a pretty decent matchup against it. If you time your stuff right, if you can kind of catch your opponent off guard, which the Expo decks generally do have long periods of do nothing while they build their elixir back up, you can really punish them, but Gilgamesh just felt like he was on his back foot from the first 30 seconds of the game and could never really recover from that.
So the Furnace is a card that we haven't really seen any of yet?
Yeah, I don't think. I think
This is the
that was
first Coronation Day that's featuring Furnaces. Yeah, that's
Hey,
right.
welcome, Furnace. Welcome to the
Yay,
Clash
Furnace.
Round North American Open.
What are the strengths of that card and weaknesses too?
Right, well, it's low-cost building, only 4 elixir. It's the cheapest, aside from Tombstone, of the spawner buildings, which is a term for buildings that generate troops on their
Yeah,
own.
they're the greatest.
It creates 2 Fire Spirits every 10 seconds. Fire Spirits are about, oh yeah, we got one right behind me here. Imagine 2 of these bad boys coming at you. So 2 Fire Spirits is what, like an elixir and a half worth, and it's gonna make several waves of those. So if you're gonna use those Fire Spirits very effectively, you get way more than 4 elixir worth of value.
Okay, well, Flawless up 1. Can Gilgamesh bring it back? We'll see.
I love our Fire Spirit prop.
So good.
It's got nice glowy eyes.
I'm gonna go
So
hug it
cute.
right now. You're not
He's
gonna be able to see,
real.
but I'm gonna hug it.
That's a real Fire
That's the
Spirit,
real
buddy.
Fire Spirit? Okay.
Don't get too close.
Did you poke it? I'm scared.
Ah, what the heck?
We gotta get the Fire Marshal in here.
Right there, the Giant is a natural counter. I think these minor Furnace decks are coming back because of the absence of Giant decks with the most recent balance update. The Giant has so many hit points. The Fire Spirits are kind of ineffective. They're not going to do a significant amount of damage to the Giant health pool of the Giant.
Oh, hey, I see. Yeah.
Well done.
Fun
That
machine.
was. You should feel bad about yourself.
I do.
Good. Now, what's the other interesting thing about Furnace is that Poison, as with most other spawners, Poison was the bane of all kinds of spawner cards. I think Giant plus Poison made it really tough to justify playing the Furnace card. But with that reduction of attack speed, you might even still play it in the face of Poison. You would just have to be careful about where you position it.
Yeah, the real catch here is that Flawless has a Tombstone in his deck, and Tombstone, for 1 less elixir than Furnace, is kind of a counter to Furnace because the steady stream of skeletons actually absorb those Fire Spirits, and you never really get to lock onto the tower like you want to.
Interesting choice to use a log. I feel like Gilgamesh is really prioritizing the lifeline of his Furnace a lot more than I would think would be normal. It was interesting because he threw the log, threw the Ice Spirit, and then also popped the Skeleton Army to make sure that the Giant didn't do any damage to the Furnace. I don't know if I necessarily like that move. Obviously, Gilgamesh earned a little bit of damage on the tower and defended appropriately, so maybe it was the right choice.
Yeah, I'm not totally convinced on this putting the Furnace down the same lane's already gone down. You have so much damage already on the other side, and even though it's not going to be great against Giant, like, not much better against Tombstone, to be honest.
Yeah.
The Lightning is critical for a lot of these decks because once you get double elixir time and you just have more elixir than you can afford to spend, Lightning allows it, for just 6 elixir, to completely wipe out a defensive position of your opponent.
Seems like the only amount of damage Gilgamesh can attempt to push onto the tower is really with his Miner. And you know what card would be really nice in this situation to accompany the Miner, Rumham? Goblin Barrel.
Minion
There's one card
Horde-
missing.
Minion Horde, I think, would be very strong. We see how good the Mega Minion is against the Giant Bowler 10 elixir ground-only sort of attack. You know, it's actually, we've been kind of talking down about Gilgamesh here, but he's not in a bad position. He's only less than 200 hit points behind, and that's something that can easily turn around in double elixir time.
Interestingly, I think it was double elixir time that really turned this fight in favor of Gilgamesh. I think Giant Bowler Lightning was just a little bit too heavy, and actually the added elixir generation, I think, helped Gilgamesh cycle the necessary cards much quicker. Now that Skeleton Army is actually a cheap drop, I would say, I think it's really helped Gilgamesh get to the Furnace, get to the Musketeer, get to the Mega Minion much easier by cycling that Skeleton Army card.
Ooh, the Ice Spirit misses the Giant. That Mega Minion's bearing down. It could take, if any swings on the tower are going to be very deadly here.
Oh, plays a Skeleton Army to defend, and that's actually a really smart play coming out from Gilgamesh in dire times. He's pulling out all the stops. Bowler will push the Miner off, and that actually is not in favor
Lightning.
of Flawless.
Lightning.
Lightning.
It's not in
Lightning.
favor
Lightning.
of Flawless. No, I actually...
Gilgamesh pulls it out.
Oh, no.
Wow.
I can't. God,
Seth Ham.
Seth Ham.
Seth Ham, how dare you?
Rummy Seth.
Yeah.
The bowler betrayed Flawless. It
Where he
was
pushed back the mine?
working for Gilgamesh the whole time.
Or did Gilgamesh outsmart the thick-skulled bowler?
That's it.
Here's the thing about bowler. Bowler is going to attack the first thing that comes into its range, and it rolls that rock in a straight line every time. One of the most common ways you'd play a bowler is when there's a big swarm coming down your lane, something like skeleton army, guards, barbarians. That's when bowler wants to focus right down the lane and throw that rock. The miner pops up right behind the bowler, and he goes, whoa, something closer to me, turns his back to those incoming skeletons, right, and is fighting the miner, allowing those skeletons to do a little bit of damage. Was that the key thing that helped him win the game? Not really, but that miner did connect to the tower because 5 elixir had just been spent on the bowler, and that got it just low enough for the lightning to finish it off.
What do you think was the key?
Honestly, I'm going to agree with Rainey that the double elixir time was much more beneficial for Gilgamesh there than it was for Flawless. Flawless felt like he was in control the first 3 minutes of the game, but the last 2 minutes slipped right through his fingers.
All right, well, right now, ladies and gentlemen, one of these two players you see before you will make it to the semifinals. Will it be Gilgamesh? Will it be Flawless? Let's check it out.
And now I believe Gilgamesh has to be on his other deck. He can no longer play that Minor Furnace deck, which is going to be, what's that? X-Bow. A Reddit Alpha player playing Siege. I don't know if I've ever heard of something like that. Boom!
Big surprise. Mega Minion is floating its way across, and actually the one health musketeer. We talk about it all the time.
Hey,
and here
Christian.
it is now.
Huh?
What hit point matters the most?
I think it's the last one.
That's correct. This musketeer, even though it survived, mostly died to the fireball, survived a little bit and got several more shots off. Shots on the Inferno Tower, some shots on the guards around it. You really have to make sure you kill those units, or else they'll come back to bite you.
They will come back to haunt you. As appropriate is Halloween is coming up soon. The musketeer was spooky enough.
Ooh, smart move there by Flawless to keep a bowler in hand, knowing that he's going to need it to stop those crazy old bowlers. Ooh, the slow on the bowler means he's not going to swing again before he gets shot.
Oh! Ice Golem is such a good card.
And now the musketeer's getting beat up. This X-Bow is shooting bolts and taking names.
Value bow.
That, I think that's going to do about 1,300. Oh, I was so wrong. I was so wrong.
Hey, no.
Or are you an optimistic believer in X-Bows around the world?
I was so
Maybe
wrong.
you can see the future.
Rumham, I'm kind of ashamed. I need to put my estimation game up.
I don't know. You've been batting almost 1,000. We might have to bump you down to 900 after that, but you've been doing pretty well to this point. Here's the thing. Gilgamesh has got a pretty tough matchup with the X-Bow, especially X-Bow against a Tombstone giant bowler deck. We saw how tough that can be in prior Coronation days. But if he loses to this, it'll be an X-Bow mirror match, which we've seen so many of.
Uh-oh, big body on the right side. Gonna try to tank up the X-Bow, but Flawless was not convinced that the Giant would actually get to the spot it needed to be in time and played the bowler instead. But what a good choice it was. That bowler got a lot of damage onto the X-Bow itself, and the Musketeer will finish it off. It's a game of inches. Look at how little health that Musketeer has.
It was low enough that it actually wasn't a threat to the tower. The tower has a slightly longer range than the Musketeer. Got one shot off before the Musketeer could pull the trigger, and that worked out. I love the use of Ice Golem.
I think that Gilgamesh is actually cycling his X-Bow relatively well, and he definitely needs to do something of that sort to control this match, because as we know, big body versus X-Bow is just not too easy to handle. And Gilgamesh is starting to feel the pressure, right? His defense is starting to get a little more panicked. A few more troops are making it farther down the field, and I think that the momentum is pushing towards Flawless's way.
It's such a tough combination of Giant and Bowler, because both of those cards could reasonably counter an X-Bow, which gives Flawless opportunities to do things like play the Giant back, invest it for a later attack, and then still have Bowler in hand to prevent the X-Bow from finishing him off.
Mega Minion is gonna.
Lots of stuff though in front of the X-Bow this time.
I actually like the respect that Gilgamesh had for his tower health. He knew that one giant swing could make all the difference between maybe even doing a draw, right? And I just really like that he saved that giant swing, because lightning is a dangerous card. You really do not want your tower to drop any lower than it is right now.
And even though these X-Bows aren't really connecting to towers, I feel like Gilgamesh is which is unusual for X-Bow, getting a good elixir trades out of them. I mean, they feel like they're killing about 6 elixir worth of stuff, given that a few of these X-Bows have eaten up musketeers, bowlers, lots of big high-cost troops along the way.
And again, Gilgamesh taking no chances. And I think that he's really, smartly playing out for a draw. I actually, if I was a tournament player, I approve of this I would approve of this strategy 100%.
That's very interesting. Yeah, you're right, because the draw goes to neither player, and you can try again, maybe get a better opening hand, something like that. But I think, it's hard to say, because I think that Gilgamesh, if he had the time, would probably want to set up a center expo that would allow him to then set up that expo at the river. We've seen that used in a couple of these matches, and it's a great way for expo decks to punch through very stringent defenses.
Yes.
With 2 expos on the board at once.
Absolutely. I think what I'm going to call the leapfroggy expo. I think if you can do that, that's the perfect situation to be in. Ooh, that boulder came really close to the tower. Oh, a big lightning.
Oh, no!
Oh, the log! No! Oh, my God, the log just...
The log betrayed him.
lightning, right?
Oh, my God.
Flawless has lightning.
These cards are just...
Yeah, lightning is going to end the game here any second. What happened there?
Or arrows.
Log, arrows, and lightning. 3 spells.
Wow.
In his expo deck.
Congratulations.
I feel like
Flawless.
we're watching the Cold War right now. You do not know.
Oh my God.
No, everyone's just pulling the dirtiest tricks.
Yeah.
Hey, you were sad about your Hog Rider with all the spells. Look at Flawless just pulled it off flawlessly.
Yeah.
He's throwing spells. The thing is, it makes much more sense with a slow-paced deck than it does with Hog Rider. Because the thing about Hog Rider is it lives and dies in very short
Very
moments,
quickly.
right?
Yeah.
So like, you don't have the elixir to just be, I'll throw around this spell, I'll throw that spell. You know, with Giant Bowler, you play the Giant, you play the Bowler, and
It builds up, builds up, builds
Yep.
up. Right, I can use the
So
lightning.
we're going to game 3, and it's going to be an Expo mirror match. Now, we've seen Gilgamesh's...
No, wait, that was it. Flawless just won. It was all tied
Gilgamesh
up there.
won game 1.
Right, Flawless
Yeah.
won.
Game 2.
I thought that was. I'm pretty sure that was game 3. Was that?
Was that...
Yeah, that was the winner.
Huh.
Yeah, Flawless.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Flawless just took that. Maybe. I think we have a replay race. Let's go ahead and pull it up and maybe confirm that this is exactly what happened. This is the Expo replay here.
the furnace placed down the wrong lane. I really think that Gilgamesh would have been better suited with the furnace going down the right lane. And I think it's tough. The execution for these cards are so precise, right? You make one error, and it's all the difference. Those fire spirits will jump away, and now we see the Expo just doing its duty. Just do. One shot after the next. And despite the minor being played, it's just too late.
Am I crazy? Because I think Gilgamesh won this game, and then we just watched Flawless win. Because Flawless hasn't played his Expo deck. Or other than he's switched, right? Maybe I'm going nuts.
I didn't speak up because I actually have the same inkling as Rumham.
Yeah, okay, all right, thank you. All right, am I
I
not
have the same
crazy?
inkling as Rumham, but I don't want to be wrong, so I'm gonna,
Yeah, all right,
I'm
I'll
gonna
be
wait for
wrong.
them to come for me
I'll
first.
be wrong.
We're gonna have to confirm this, but yeah, I think that was the
Yeah.
third game.
We thought Flawless was going to win game one. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So Flawless won game one with his Giant Bowler over an Expo. No, he just won the last game, Giant Bowler over Expo.
And the first game with his Expo.
The first one was Gilgamesh pulling it out with the Minor Furnace deck. I'm not
Bowler
going to say
betrayed.
anymore. Please.
We've hit a time loop.
That was game three. Apparently I forgot game one because it's been so fun.
Flawless
Yeah.
picked up that victory. He is now moving on to join Flash and Swood. Now,
Congratulations.
our final,
By the way.
our final round.
You're good, I'm bad.
You did it.
I think Rumham.
I slept this many hours last night, so I'm it's catching up to
That's
me
fine.
now.
There we go. Now, our final game of round 8 is going to be Sweaty versus EsoPa. EsoPa?
EsoPa.
EsoPa. So,
Sopa.
these two gentlemen, quickly before we get into this, they're kind of buzz. Who are they in the community? Anyone unknown?
Yeah,
Both well
EsoPa
known?
is a very well-regarded strategy streamer who streams on Twitch and a lot of other things. Very thoughtful mind in the game. He's someone who can talk at length. He's actually been on the Super Magical Cup YouTube channel and our Royale Roundtable, which is a podcast-style discussion. Very, very thoughtful player who really understands the intricacies of different deck matchups. I believe he's actually brought 2 Hog Rider decks, which is kind of shocking because given how much Expo and Giant Bowler we've seen, I wouldn't expect that to be the popular deck for him. No, I'm sorry. He has a Hog Rider deck, and then he has the Goblin Barrel deck. Oh, so excited for.
Goblin Barrel.
I'm ready for it. Actually, interestingly enough, EsoPa has Princess as well in both of his decks, which is why it is the featured card. And the other interesting thing is Sweaty Face Guy actually has
Sweaty face guy.
It should be called
Nutmeg.
something else.
Should I
let me
not
know.
put the two together? I thought we were going to compromise and put my idea with your guys' idea
I like it.
for Sweaty Face Guy. But he actually has Minor in both of his decks. His first deck is going to be Lava Hound Minor, and his second deck, I believe, is a Minor Furnace or maybe a Minor Cycle. Don't really remember. We'll have to see when we get there. interesting thing to note is that Hog Rider as a deck has kind of risen in popularity since the balance changes, but I'm actually not convinced that it is a deck that will stay for long. I actually think that the Hog Rider is suffering a lot in the current meta and the previous one as well.
Yeah, the Hog Rider is a tough card because as people are playing Tombstone, well, Tombstone's a great 3 elixir answer. Bowler and all those giant decks is very tough. I actually think, though, that with the need for a Lava Hound deck to put 7 elixir on the board in the back, that's a great opportunity to play Hog Rider. I think EsoPa needs to wait for the Lava Hound to come down to really get the most out of his Hog Rider.
Defending is going to be a big thing for Sweaty Face Guy, and EsoPa actually opts to pass the turn. I think that there's possibilities for EsoPa just kind of biding his time, looking for a punish on the Hog Rider, and there it is, trying to punish the Lava Hound drop. But Tombstone is a thorn in EsoPa's side right now. I think that he needs to set up a Princess or utilize Zap to make sure that the push goes through. But the question is, how do you justify that elixir spend when you know you're going to have to defend a Lava Hound coming down your lane? Don't know if EsoPa has an answer to that.
Yeah,
There's a big hog play.
Yeah, the Tombstone comes down at the last
so
minute.
quick.
So many cards all over. The Miner was played behind the King Tower on the left side, which gave the Lava Pups and the Mega Minion a little bit of time to be aggressive. Ultimately, EsoPa, though, is slowly bleeding damage. He's only getting about 1 hog swing per hog, which that's not a really great value for Elixir. 4 Elixir to do like 200 some odd damage isn't great.
Well, really, it's based on the answers that Sweaty Face Guy has been placing with the skeleton and the minions. That's not a big investment, and getting just 1 swing for an even elixir trade is not necessarily what you're looking for. If Sweaty Face Guy had contributed more elixir to the defense, then maybe you could justify a single swing from a Hog Rider, but currently, as it stands, I mean, that's 3 elixir right there. That's 6 elixir adding on for with the minions. And really, it's just no damage has really been done to the tower.
Oh no, I think that might be one of the worst times for my man Sweatface to play that Lava Hound. He was already had a Hog Rider coming down the lane, but ultimately, man, actually, you're right, that Skeletons and the Log was really enough.
Yeah, Skeleton Log's big defense, and that Miner has been smacking that tower of EsoPa's all game long, down to 722 health. Big Zap is going to help the Mega Minion fight for survival, and I mean, EsoPa's defense has been great, but when you're fighting a Miner, there's only so much you can do, and that's why the Miner card is actually so popular, is because it really puts your opponent on a timeline, right? Yeah. X amount of Miners, you're gonna lose the game, and Sweaty Face Guy has really been holding EsoPa honest to that.
Yeah, one of the best things I understand, he might not have it in his hand right now, but I really liked how he's been arrowing the Mega Minion and the Princess at the river. The last couple arrows have been going to the Princess by the tower, which is good as well. But Mega Minion is one of those cards that will get close to... Whoa! Great arrows, and that might be the game-winning arrows right there.
Wow.
A blast from the past, a pre-fire arrow, beautifully placed from Sweaty Face Guy, and man, is he playing well? There is the lightning card.
And 2 hits from the Miner will do it.
There it is. Sweaty Face Guy. That was actually really solid play.
Yeah.
Keep me in here. Game 1.
Here we go. Keep track of this.
The Sweat Man.
Sweat Man.
Yeah.
Sweaty.
Sweaty.
Sweaty Face Guy.
Sweat Dice Clay.
So you guys, I don't like it when people touch my towers.
Okay.
I don't like it. I don't like losing HP. But that could also be a really good resource in the game. When do you decide just like take some damage and like let this one happen?
In a way, you can kind of see your towers as ATMs of elixir. This is a weird thing to say, right?
Okay.
But think about this.
The ATMs.
Minions are coming towards your tower. Your opponent has spent 3 elixir. You could counter that with elixir of your own, but if you just let your tower take some damage, then you don't have to spend any elixir. Your opponent spent some elixir, but that elixir just disappeared into damage on your tower. There are situations where my left tower is really low, my right tower is full health. If they're going to spend elixir on the right side, might just let it happen because that damage might end up being irrelevant at the end. That lets you save elixir up, put it back where it's gonna be relevant, and maybe win the game with it. I'd probably do this to a fault, where I let my tower, that'll be fine, I'll do that. That minion horde, how much could it do? Yeah, and it definitely bites me, but I think some of the best players know when to trade tower damage for elixir in order to win the game.
Okay.
Let's also talk about quickly as we get into the next game, the pre-firing of the arrows. If you mess that up, how much can that come back and bite you?
Arrows is actually not the worst one.
I think arrows is the worst one.
I mean, Fireball,
we'll talk about that later.
Fireball is
bring that
definitely more of an investment, and I mean, you could imagine, I mean, nobody really does it because it is so risky, but as the elixir cost goes up, it gets more risky, right?
That's funny, because Rainey and I have a very different opinion on this, which shows why I'm glad. Oh, we got the Goblin Barrel! This is Rainey's favorite card.
Look at him panic.
Wow.
The plebeian.
Okay, so there's a really big signal. That's a huge signal to EsoPa right now. Your opponent does not have a ton of great answers aside from log to the Goblin Barrel, because he just spent 6 elixir to stop a 3 elixir spell of yours and still took a bunch of damage in the process. If that log ever comes down, expect EsoPa to be throwing Goblin Barrels right away. But back to the pre-fire question, I actually see it in a different way. I'm looking at which tower is going to do the most, or which spell does the most damage for its cost. Arrows, I think, is one of the worst things to pre-fire, because if you miss, it's 3 elixir for like 100 damage on a tower, which isn't very good at all. If you miss a fireball, it's 1 more elixir, but at least you're doing like 225, which I think is a little bit better value for the elixir cost.
Okay. Yeah, and you know, that's definitely like valuable, right? Because damage on tower is ultimately what wins you the match. Big log to trade against the Goblin Barrel, and that's what we're talking about. In a similar way to Zap, this 2 elixir spell is really something that now is locked down to having to stop this Goblin Barrel, because you are in for a world of hurt if you're trying to put a bowler down to stop that Goblin Barrel card.
I think EsoPa has already switched into, I'm just going to use Miner and Log and Princess to try to win the game here.
Yes.
He cast a Log on nothing, which doesn't make any sense, but kind of to the pre-fire question, that's only 2 elixir to do more damage than an arrow, so that might be okay, right? You're getting 60 some odd damage per elixir on the tower guaranteed, which isn't
Uh-oh, you're caught with that log. Now you got to use your fireball, and now you don't have your fireball for the push. And this is how EsoPa is going to start building elixir advantage. And you see that he basically earned himself a free princess drop that got 2 shots on the tower.
Absolutely, and I think EsoPa has control of the tempo of the game here. He's got a little more elixir, so whenever he's hitting 10, he has opportunities just to, let's spend that elixir on a miner, on a log, let's do a little bit of damage and then sit back. As long as he has more elixir than his opponent, he can cast those free spells and put the onus on his opponent to actually attack him.
Probably going to play the log for this.
Oh, and he misses! One goblin stabs!
Every
That
stab
pretty good.
counts.
I would love to see the stat on how much exactly a melee goblin does on a single stab. But
Off the top of my head, you know what? I play greenskins in every game that I can, yet I'm not a huge goblin fan in Clash Royale. Oh no, here they come! They get 1 stab, the log's coming in! And EsoPa takes game 2!
Tying it up 1-1 now against Sweaty. EsoPa 1, Sweaty 1. We're going to go into game number 3 here, ladies and gentlemen, in our final round of 8 before the semifinals.
Talk to me a little bit about using the Tesla Tower as defense.
I really like Tesla Tower. I think Inferno Tower is I would say the more popular tower. We've seen a ton of Inferno Towers so far in these 3 Coronation days.
Many.
But I like Tesla Tower for a few reasons. It can't be targeted by spells unless it's attacking. It has a little hidey hole. When it's in the hidey hole, it doesn't get hurt by arrows, poison, fireball, nothing until it pops out. There's a lot of great opportunities to use it, for example, as a defense against something like Princess. You play it at the river, it shoots the Princess, and then peace. I'm a Tesla Tower right now. Yeah. And when it does
the best
that,
impersonation.
Yeah, always.
and when it pops out, because a musketeer gets too close, you know that it's never going to get outranged by stuff. It's a great answer for cards like Royal Giant that outrange every tower in the game. It would outrange a Tesla Tower, except the Tesla Tower doesn't pop up
Until it gets close.
until it gets close enough. We're seeing a lot more Royal Giants because of all of the expos, so maybe Tesla Tower's got a renewed life.
Come back.
EsoPa winning that last match, and in fact, I actually really enjoy the fact that EsoPa made that deck, because there was actually an AMA with him, an interview with him, where he said that his favorite decks are ones that play defensively and control the pace of the game, give you the tools available to just deal slow damage to the enemy's tower, control the tempo of the match, and that's exactly what that Goblin Barrel deck did. So I think it was good deck building from EsoPa.
This is going to be interesting because we just saw EsoPa in the last match having the miner deck, right? He's the one throwing miners, but this time, my man Sweatface, Sweaty McSweats, he's going to be the one running miner, and EsoPa is running a Hog Lightning deck. There's the first hog of the day.
Again, he has to answer the Tombstone. I think there is no way that you can really get away with a Hog Rider unless you decide to spend Zap. Exactly like there.
Not bad, though.
Anytime you spend Zap, you're going to get a swing. You have to commit to spending that Zap to get that swing, but
Now the downside is EsoPa, look at that, almost 5 elixir, 4.5 elixir behind. But Sweaty might have just given it away there because he played a Tesla tower that if EsoPa doesn't feel like he has to attack, won't do much of anything. It may just sit there being 4 dead elixir. Yeah. Now it does give him a little bit of cover, right? He can play aggressively knowing, he can play aggressively knowing that he at least has a Tesla tower there for defense, but
there is the classic old pre-fireball on the miner draw. And that's exactly what Rumham was talking about, where the damage you earn is kind of fine, you know?
lightning?
I would play it.
Oh, I think the Tesla, so what happened there, the Tesla tower is placed right in the middle.
It didn't come up.
It didn't come up. If you play the Hog Rider on the side there behind those little rocks, there's actually one little square behind those rocks, and put something in front of the Hog Rider, he jumps the river diagonally instead of going right over the bridge and dodges perfectly centered placed towers.
Wow.
So smart.
That was free elixir that Sweaty Face guy just threw to EsoPa. He just played the Tesla tower right in front of the Inferno tower.
I think, great lightning there. I thought the Hog Rider was going to get a swing. Yeah, I feel like a strategic error that Sweaty keeps doing here is trying to play his Tesla tower as an investment play, but there's really there's nothing putting a gun to anyone's head there that you have to go attack that. So I'm not really sure why he's just playing it when there's nothing else on the board.
Right now, as it's going, EsoPa is going to just keep taking this match. What does Sweaty have to do to turn this around?
Not play Tesla, you got to attack. You gotta get something in.
I really think investing into a defensive structure at this point, especially when you're behind in tower health and you know that your opponent can spell cycle you, is not the right choice. He needs to figure out some line of play that will let him get past EsoPa's defense. That is the Inferno tower. That is the Mega Minion.
Yeah, like, I'm really confused about why the bowler is being played at the river. Because bowler it's expensive and it's slow, which is a great card for an investment. You can put that behind your king tower and just wait. I think he's afraid of eating a lightning on the bowler, but you're going to eat that lightning no matter what, buddy. There's not a lot of ways around that.
He's got to bite it.
Right, so if you could at least put the bowler behind, let it survive a lightning, then you could probably put together a pretty big push, but right now when he plays it up front, how much elixir can he really put into a single attack?
Here comes the miner onto the Inferno tower, and I actually think that that is a smarter choice. Unfortunately, the bowler is low health enough that I don't think it's going to matter. Mega Minion is the big card to play for EsoPa and will clear out the bowler, and I think that EsoPa has locked down this game. A lock to trade for the princess, but the Mega Minion is flying across, and now the elixir advantage is coming to a point where EsoPa's going to be able to take that, and he wins.
You're not out till you're out. I mean, lost game 1. It looked like Sweaty Face was maybe even going to 2-0 him pretty deep there in game 2, but EsoPa settles down, focuses on his game plan, takes games 2 and 3 of the set, and that was game 3 of the set.
That was it.
Good
Congratulations to EsoPa. Moving on to be our final semifinals. Before we go ahead and look at the bracket, I want to talk about one of your favorite cards. You said Goblin Barrel.
Yeah.
Talking about the mind games played with that card, because it is a card that people play mind games like crazy. Like, I'll see it coming in, I'm like, preemptive zap, and they're all on one side. I'm like, oh no! Just walk me through just kind of the many uses of that card.
Goblet, actually, this is a good art corner thing. I want to do an art corner on Goblet.
Cool,
Barrel.
we'll do it during the break, and we'll come back and show you.
I think, Clash Royale and life is a game of game of pattern recognition, right? You do something, action, reaction, learn from that.
Sure.
If you throw a Goblin Barrel and they're so ready to zap on that tower, you know that they're going to zap while the Goblin Barrel's still in the air.
Okay.
So you can go ahead and throw it aside.
That makes
See what
sense.
happens.
Speaking of Goblin Barrel, here we go. Where is it?
I think that the Goblin Barrel usage in this match was really throwing Sweaty Face guy off, just because it's not a card that you commonly see at all.
Oh, there it is.
And in combination with something like Log, you actually get so much damage that is almost impossible for your opponent to deal with, because they're just so quick to attack onto the tower.
Yeah. One of the Goblin Barrel mind plays we saw was actually, if you remember, the Log hit only 2 of the 3 goblins because they were a little far away and the one got little stabs in here. On this replay, we're seeing how great the Hog is as a tank for slower troops behind it. The Mega Minion does a good amount of damage, but it's slow and the tower can shoot it down. The tower was so focused on that Hog Rider up front that it let the Mega Minion sneak up.
Yeah.
Mega Minion did more damage than the Hog Rider on that push.
Woo! Well, there it is. Congratulations to EsoPa again joining our semifinal. Let's go ahead and pull up the bracket so we can take a look at all those 4 amazing players who have made it up there. Up first, hey, look, it's over our faces.
Whoa.
So we've got Flash and Swood, and then we've got Flawless and EsoPa. Rumham, Rainey, talk about the kind of players, their play styles, and what it was that brought them each to the semifinals.
I think that the lineup is really, really strong. Flash, we know, is a player that is very, very good at just Clash Royale in general, as well as EsoPa, a big name in the community. So no surprise to see them make it all the way there. And I think that if I were to choose a player to win it, I'm biased because EsoPa's playing a Goblin Barrel deck. And I actually think, so I'm not just straight biased for Goblin Barrel, right? I see a lot of terrible Goblin Barrel decks in the Super Magical Cup. You know, there are some that make me, you know, hit my knee on the table.
In anger.
And in anger, yeah. Just dropping the table on my knee and breaking it in half.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's that bad.
We should go
But
check that out.
the Goblin Barrel deck that EsoPa built was actually quite good. Typically, I don't like Goblin Barrel in Siege style play, where you just kind of chuck the barrel and hope that it does something. I actually think that is not the most effective way, but with the addition of Miner, I think you build many more opportunities to actually use that barrel in a meaningful manner.
All right, Rainey, you're going with EsoPa. Rumham, how about you?
He took my pick, though, but for very different reasons.
Okay, so both EsoPa.
Ender, Eric.
Oh, and the E's!
E's, you gotta keep leading, you gotta keep leading. Or when we finally move forward in the alphabet to F. There's two options, because we got a 50-50 shot of going from E to F here with both Flash and Flawless. You know, Flash is one of those players that he's never won a Super Magical Cup. He's really consistent, but hasn't actually won a big title. But if you ask other good players, who are some of the best players in the game, they say Flash. They're like, oh, that Flash guy's nuts, right? So it wouldn't surprise me if Flash finally has his big breakout performance and takes home a crown in one of these major bracketed tournaments. I'll go with Flash only because I can't continue the E names. All right.
Well, we'll see very soon, but first, send us your haikus.
That's right.
Definitely do that.
Yeah.
Tell us who you want to read them to. Hashtag ClashNAOpen, Twitter, tweet them all.
Yeah, tweet them all to us. We'll be reading those when we come back from the break. So that we can get to that, let's go ahead and go to a quick break. Do not go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, semifinalist number 1, Flash versus Swood.
Help me build a Goblin Barrel deck.
Yeah, let's build a Goblin Barrel deck right now.
Our letter grades are not getting better. E to F.
These are the rules of the duel. All duels must have appropriately epic music.
Clash Royale! Pick a fight with everyone! Clash Royale! It's got lightning and skeletons. Duel players in real time. Destroy towers in real time. While your troops take a stand, now you've got the upper hand. Destroy the king when the ground and Clash Royale!
That was a rule of the duel, a most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. Anything goes in the arena, and anything goes inside the goblin hunt. Anything. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. The grass in the arena must be properly cut. It's a full-time job. That was the rule of the duel. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale. These are the rules of the duel. The winner takes the loser's trophies. And their dignity. That was a rule of the duel. A most ridiculous duel. Clash Royale.
Welcome back, Clashers and Clashettes, to the official Supercell Clash Royale North American Open.
That's right. If you guys are just now tuning in, we are getting ready to move into our semifinals, where we have Flash versus Swood, and then next will be Flawless versus EsoPa. So we have some exciting duels. Again, these guys playing for some big, big bucks.
Oh yeah, but first, we have some haikus for you.
You guys did it.
Ours for today was brought by Josh Leesman.
Oh, Josh
Oh, thank you.
Leesman.
Josh Leesman, a.k.a. Jack.
Mr. Jat himself.
Big fan. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
There we go.
Oh, God.
Here we go. I'll do it in the voice of the commercial guy.
Yeah.
Giant poison, die. Expo is the new hotness. The cycle goes on.
Bravo! Hey, well done. Very, very good. Very good. Thank you so
Very
much,
nice.
Josh, for that. And the problem is, you were saying that Giant Poison isn't dead.
It's, you know, with that attitude.
How are you going to go against it?
Yeah, no, I like it. I mean, I don't think poison is taken that much. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's way worse than it was before.
Yes.
But I still think poison has a lot of uses, especially in a world where there's a lot of guards, skeleton army. We're seeing at least one of those cards, or minions, minion horde, in pretty much every deck, right? So there's a lot of opportunities to use poison. I'm still happy with it. But I think the interesting thing that Rainey and I have learned after 6+ months of casting games together is that there's always one big deck, and it just keeps cycling through to the
Trends.
point of the Haiku, right?
Yeah,
At the
what's
start
next?
of season 2, do you remember, Rainey, what we started season 2 off with?
We saw lots of Minor Furnace. We saw lots of Minor Ice Wizard Princess. And we saw a lot of Minor Minion stuff.
And that gave way to Giant Poison. Giant Poison was then countered by these Minor Inferno, very CG defensive decks. Those decks were upset multiple weeks in a row by Three Musketeer decks.
Circle of life.
Yeah. And then Lava Hound kind of came in and wrecked those decks near the end of the season. So the cycle always rolls on. Giant Poison might be out of favor now. Expo's having its moment in the sun, but nothing is forever, Ella.
Okay.
That's right, that's right. Well, let's go ahead and pull up the, while she reflects on that life lesson, let's go ahead and pull up the brackets here. Again, we're into our semi-finals. First is gonna be Flash versus Swood, and then Flawless versus EsoPa. Rainey, you said before the break that EsoPa was your man. Rumham, you said that you were going with Flash.
Yep. Swiggity Swoody Flash is coming for that booty.
Is that
Well, yeah. I mean, Flash wants to
that
go
what he
to the. Yeah, I think that's what he said.
Wow.
So here's the thing. Both of them are members of Takeover. So they are clanmates. It's tough. No matter who advances, you gotta kind of be happy for your friend,
Sure.
while a little
Right.
bittersweet
Yeah.
that you're not advancing.
Yeah.
Flash
Like,
might
good
actually
for you.
become the Takeover, the buddy killer, because he's already knocked off Chief J in the earlier round to get here. That was
I'm
tough.
telling you, today's show is emblematic of the Cold War. You just don't know who your ally is. Flash is backstabbing everybody.
We're in some history.
It's fine. He's
into
gonna
this.
he's gonna make a name for himself right here. So before the break, actually during the break, you decided to draw us a little something. So we're gonna quickly look at that here. All right, ready?
All right, we're taking a moment for Rainey's art corner.
Art corner.
And today we're learning about Goblin Barrel. So this is only half the map, right? This is the map that you typically see. You're the blue player. Here's your King Tower. Here's your 2 Crown Towers. Now, what I have marked out that I don't know if you guys can see very well, but on the actual Crown Tower, as my voice breaks, on the actual Crown Tower, if you throw your Goblin Barrel exactly on the Crown Tower, your Goblins will surround the tower, actually.
Right, evenly.
Like a triangle.
Yeah.
Now, typically, that's not a great idea because when somebody zaps on his tower as well, each of those goblins will die. What people don't know is when they are using number 3 and number 2, you notice how there's a purple circle around there.
Yes.
That is actually Zap's kill zone. What a lot of people do is when they go for, say, position number 2, it's actually too close to the tower and it doesn't actually change where the guy has to zap because all the goblins will just line up on that other wall, right? It's not surrounding the tower, so the positioning is a little bit different, but it's not actually a mind game because the person still zaps the same
the
exact
zap still
spot and
kills
it
it.
works, right? So you have to
Okay.
realize that when you're shooting for number 2, you have to shoot farther down and as close to the corner as you can. Big problem though. There's another
so many
problem to this.
problems.
If you do not have X marks the spot, if you do not have your own unit, a tank, there's the beautiful X. If you do not have a tank, actually the time it takes for the goblins to run up to the tower is so long that you only get 1 goblin to the tower. So when you are doing mind games, make sure that you have these. Do you have a tank?
Tank.
If you have a tank,
Check.
then you can throw far from the tower
Check.
and avoid the zap. If you don't have a tank, you may as well throw the Goblin Barrel on the tower because it doesn't change what your opponent has to do to actually zap it out.
Man.
Not our corner, it's mind game corner.
Yeah.
Rainey's got 99 problems, but a gob ain't one.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That was free. You didn't have to pay a cent for that knowledge. So thank you so much, Rainey, for that. Now let's go ahead and pull up the decks of our first semifinalists here. We've got Flash. We've got Swood. Rumham, Rainey, quickly your first thoughts as you just glance over these 2 decks. 4 decks, I guess.
I guess I'll argue for Flash since he's sort of my pick here.
That's right.
I really love the Lava Hound Miner. He's got Inferno Tower in both decks, which is going to make it really hard for both the Expo and Giant Bowler to be super effective.
What do you see? Argue for Swood here.
I think that the argument is a little bit made for myself. Neither does Flash have a Giant Bowler deck in his lineup, nor does he have a good answer to the Giant Bowler that exists in Swood's deck. We saw how tough of a time Lava Hound has against these crossbow decks, which Swood does have, as well as the fact that there actually isn't really a good answer for the Giant Bowler that Swood is carrying. So I think that's going to be the hardest thing for Flash to overcome, is the fact that he actually doesn't have Flash doesn't have terrible matchups, right? But he doesn't have a good matchup.
And when double deck format, every deck you bring is really crucial. You have to win with both of them.
Right.
I think Flash is really hoping to get a good matchup with Lava Hound here in game 1. If he can steal game 1 with Lava Hound, then he's in a much more comfortable Expo position. I mean, I think we could comfortably say that Expo is the most powerful deck right now, given how much we're seeing it.
He might be in luck because that is definitely the Giant Bowler deck,
right.
and this is probably the preferred matchup for the Lava Hound deck.
Absolutely.
So things going just as planned for Flash.
I think he's going to, ooh, that Arrows is a bad start. Is the Miner coming in? It is not. So he opts to just sort of play the Lava Hound just to see how it goes, see what his opponent does against him.
So the big thing to notice about this is this bowler is about to get melted down. Whatever damage this Mega Minion gets is what Swood earns, and that's nothing.
That was so close, though, because if that Ice Spirit was an Olympic long-jumping Ice Spirit, the ever-rare Ice Spirit that jumped
super
really high,
legendary.
right? Yeah. If he would have jumped from a little further away, that Mega Minion, even though it had very, very low health, would have been able to do significant damage, maybe 500 or more, to the frozen tower.
It would have definitely caught up to Flash. The big thing you have to notice is Flash's Lava Hound push was not necessarily super effective, but it was better than Swood's push, and so that actually is concerning for Swood if that happens over and over and over again, which I don't know if it is. That's actually a giant that's very far forward. There's no Inferno Tower. Skeleton Army does a ton of damage, but that's a lot of free damage that Swood got.
I think Skeleton Army overall is so good on defense because even if you do log it, they get their pound of flesh. You know what I mean? Like they're going to get their damage on the tank prior to. Oh, here comes the Miner.
Here comes
Watch
Johnny.
those Lava Pups.
That's the Miner, and it's going to actually tank up for the Lava Pups. We talked about the 1-2 punch that the
it's
Lava
still
Hound
going.
provides. And actually, the big thing is that Bowler is tanking the majority of the pups, but 2 of them did end up locking onto the tower, and that's going to give Flash the worth that he needs for that push.
Absolutely. All the minions are pretty crazy because, oh, here we go. Let's see, the tower locks onto the Lava Hound. No, it locks onto a minion first. That is unfortunate. You wanted that Lava Hound to be maybe 1 square further ahead because the tower cleans up the minions pretty easily, and you'd much rather have that damage wasted on the Lava Hound itself.
Perfect positioning, the scientific 3-4 that Yarn has all taught us.
That's right.
The 3-4 positioning on the Inferno Tower, far enough away that the Giant has to walk the maximum distance away from
Absolutely.
the tower.
Thank you, OJ, for educating all of us.
OJ. There's the tower. If this is unchallenged, that Miner will take down the tower.
It only needs a fireball now to take it down. 20 seconds left. But there's plenty of time for Swood to put together a very deadly giant lightning push. But those swarms, look at the swarms go.
Yeah, I think the reaction on playing the log is just a little bit too slow for Swood in this match overall. We've seen 2 times where Skeleton Army has gone insane value stopping a Bowler Giant push. Typically, you would think that Bowler does really well against Skeleton Army, but when you play it as a surround as opposed to playing it across the bridge, it's a very different story.
Absolutely. That's one of, I think, the key differences between guards and Skeleton Army when it comes to the Bowler matchup. Is guards have a really hard time not all getting caught in the same rock, where Skeleton Army is so big, just surround them right there.
Okay, so something I've noticed, flying units, their paths are a little different than ground units. What's the difference there?
Yeah, they definitely, well, because they don't have to worry
That's a
about
very good
ground
question,
conditions, they sort of move as the bird flies, right? Like they're just,
Right.
they can avoid the river, bridge, all the sort of distractions there. There are some downsides to it, though. One of the weird nuances that players have to learn is that if you have a tower down, your air units actually drift towards the remaining tower.
Oh, really?
They don't just go in a straight line. They kind of,
really?
they kind of move over that way. It's very odd.
Huh. So let's say both towers are up though, and you place it right in the dead center. Let's say a minion horde right in the dead center, back by your king
What
tower.
happens?
What are they gonna?
They split.
Okay,
They
no,
split. Any unit you play that has multiple bodies in it that you play in the middle will almost always split in equal directions. I mean, 3 Musketeers go 2 and 1, Barbarians go 2 and 2, Archers go 1 and 1. There's a whole bunch like that.
Barbarians, interestingly enough, here's a little tidbit. If you play your 4 Barbarians behind the King Tower, they will split 3-1.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is
If you
that?
play it in front of the King Tower, they split 2-2.
Hey. Okay. Little fun facts. Well, yeah, I guess we can get into the benefits of that when we actually see it. But right now, we've got Flash up game 1. He has 1 more game to win, and he's moving on to our finals. If you were Swood in that situation, since he's the one who went a game down, would you have brought that deck first, or would you have switched it up? Why do you think he brought the deck that he did? Because again, even the beginning of these matches are kind of mind games. Like, what's my opponent going to play? What am I going to play against him? Why do you think Swood chose to go with that one?
I actually think you're not too worried if you're Swood, because you know now that Flash has to play the Expo deck.
Okay.
Play your Giant Bowler, regain that point, you
Right.
lost, and then now you just have to deal with the Expo mirror match. So you should play your Giant Bowler and know how to play out that matchup, but be thinking about how you're going to beat Expo mirror.
Definitely push into game 3. It actually is kind of beneficial for Swood here because he gets to see all of Flash's Expo deck in a favorable matchup, and then when he brings his Expo deck, there's a little bit of mystery there. Flash is going to have the same scouting report.
Yes, absolutely. Swood has shown his Giant Bowler twice, and Flash has not yet had to experience Expo that Swood will execute in.
If he makes it, Flash could take this.
He could,
Absolutely.
yeah, he
I
could.
mean, we've seen already, we mentioned that we think Giant Bowler is not a very good matchup, but it's worth mentioning that Flash made it here by
going
beating
against it.
a Giant Bowler
Yeah.
and outplaying
Which
it.
is
So he
Expo.
might have a unique strategy or in his head, like a line of play that he uses against Giant Bowler deck to outsmart them. And unless the Giant Bowler player knows what he's trying to set up and do, might be able to Bobby Fischer checkmate him there with some innovative play.
Let's go search for him.
Bobby Fischer. Oh, the Ice Spirit
The
actually
Olympic
jumped.
level jumping Ice Spirit jumps over the rock, hurdles the rock, and gets onto the bowler.
10 points.
Might actually have been in favor of the bowler. Delaying it from coming across the bridge means it's harder for Flash to remove, means the bowler actually tanks up more of the Expo shots. Opens up the opportunity for the Giant as well.
Okay, a
it
little
is.
chip damage on the
Never
tower,
mind.
though. And it fell short.
Oh. Now, it's interesting to me, Swood has chosen not to respond to the Inferno Tower twice now. The first time, he actually took 500 damage to his tower because of it. The second time around, he seems to be looking for a bigger push. Maybe double elixirs when he really wants to start throwing out the light.
Swood does not have Zap in his deck. He is a Giant Bowler Lightning player like we saw in round 1, so he's going to really need a lot of elixir, either a Giant or Bowler behind his King Tower to really save up enough for that Lightning. The downside is that if he plays a Giant or Bowler behind his King Tower, he's that much more vulnerable to an Expo.
Uh-oh, Bowler's feeling pretty sad because it's raining whatever minions shoot on your head. That's actually one of the worst things about playing a bowler is that if there's Mega Minion and you cannot contest air superiority, your bowler is just dead in the water.
Twice now, though, Swood has played his Mega Minion in front of the Giant, which allows the Inferno Tower and the Crown Tower just to shred it. A lone Giant isn't terribly threatening. And smart move, though, by Flash, placing his Inferno Tower and Mega Minion far enough away that he couldn't hit the tower and both of those defensive moves.
Gets one swing on the Giant and the Lightning on top of that. So I think that Swood might be pretty happy about that, but I would definitely like to see Swood changing his line of play to more, pose more of a threat to Flash right now.
I'm still really surprised that we haven't seen the center Expo, or at least maybe not center, but not at the river, like back a little bit, to set up for a second Expo a little bit later. That seems like, well, maybe, what do I know? He's locked onto the tower and doing quite a bit of damage, but I think that's a good 1-2 step process. If your opponent spends a lot of elixir to lightning your center Expo, you know they don't have lightning or really much elixir at all to set up the next Expo shortly after.
Giant Bowler on the front side. The Ice Spirit actually slows down the Inferno Tower, and the Mega Minion is played just in time to keep tanking it up for that Giant. Big problem now is that the Mega Minion remains on Flash's side and will be able to do a ton of damage to the Giant. And again, a push mitigated, but no damage done for Swood. And Flash can actually play out this matchup continuously in this way. It's not really that Flash necessarily has a win in the bag, but he's definitely not losing.
Yeah, he can't get a little too aggressive or too greedy though, because Giant Bowler is a 10 elixir push. I mean, we're mostly seeing them as a defensive answer to the Expo, but if you just ignore those cards and try to go down the other lane, Giant Bowler can shred your tower, no questions asked.
It all comes down to how close, and Flash is continuously swapping sides because he knows that it's just much more inefficient if he's having Swood, forcing Swood to play his Giant and Bowler alternating sides. Basically increases his health pool by double.
You're right, because the push is likely not going to knock an entire tower down in one go, whereas Flash is looking just for one Expo to connect, and it will take down the entire tower.
Oh, this is the first time Swood is actually going on the aggressive front, and this might actually be the losing move or the winning one. We'll see. Big lightning perhaps on 3.
Lasers.
No, the Giants actually get lasered down, and now Bowler is the only thing standing in the way of the crossbow. And I feel like Flash has a pretty good setup. There's a Bowler, and the Mega Minion dropped at the same time. Big fireball comes in, but misses the Mega Minion. Inferno Tower nearly melts it, but the last health is the health point that matters. And I don't know. The crossbow is actually going to get taken down by the Giant. Big lightning clears the way, and all of a sudden, how the tides have turned. These guards are going to get the Giant one swing. Oh,
Yeah,
one swing.
you're right. It's back. Back in 1,000.
I'm making it
Raining
back.
magic.
Raining magic.
I think Flash is really cursing that he doesn't have a lightning of his own right now, because that would be the best possible thing that he could use to back up the Expo. These troops in front are fine, but every time the Bowler has been the blocker of choice, and if he could just lightning the tower and the Bowler, the Expo would shred it and then suddenly lock onto the tower shortly after.
We might have a draw. Do you guys think we're having a draw here?
I think we're going to have a draw. I think they just like my drawing corner so much that they took the wrong idea of the word and just started saying, hey, we want to draw too.
We also want a draw.
That's not what Flash wants, though. I mean, he definitely, it's rare that you as the Expo deck are going to have such a good lead against these enemy decks, so I think he wants to close this out. I don't know if he's going to be able to in 20 seconds, but he did everything right. You know, he played Expo against a bad matchup and got the tower down to triple digits, and he really wants to just close it out.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I think the timeline is just not realistic for him now. Something interesting that I will note about Swood's play in this game so far, and this is one of the reasons why I actually think when you're playing Giant Bowler against Expo, the first thing that you want to do is just start cycling lightning. Don't play your Bowler, play your Giant to tank up the crossbow, then use lightning on the crossbow, something, and the tower. The earlier you start doing that, then you get into the situation where you're 1 minute left in overtime. That tower is going to be at 3-digit health, and it's going to be much easier to cycle down. And I think, what is the difference, right? You play your Giant, you play the Lightning, crossbow's nearly dead. Flash can play whatever he wants. That Giant's not going to die, right? You can still have time to use your Giant to tank and play whatever cards defensively. You actually don't need your Giant or your Bowler to swing on the tower.
Really?
Just say, I'm just going to get damage with Lightning. I'm going to cede that to my opponent. I'm going to say, I'm going to let you defend whatever comes across the river. I'm actually not going to invest so much. Instead, I'm just going to get guaranteed damage lightning you every single time.
Okay.
And even if the crossbow tags onto your tower and does a little bit of damage, you know that as Giant Bowler, if you feel uncomfortable, just start playing mega defensively. Just start playing Giant, then Bowler, then cycle, Giant, then Bowler, and his crossbow will never touch your
So
tower.
one of the things there is that Flash had Fireball, not Lightning. You were saying, oh, it'd be so good to have Lightning right now. What's the difference of damage to a tower between Fireball and Lightning?
Fireball does 222, Lightning does 357, I think. It's 350
350 something. Definitely not 360 because we got
we
tricked
messed up
many
on that. We
times.
thought it was 363 and it was like 8 left or whatever. Yeah, you're right.
Gotcha.
It's like 354 to make that.
So-
So it's significantly different, but I think the key there is that it does a lot more. Towers only do 40% of their max damage to enemy crown towers. Spells do 40% to crown towers. So it actually, a full lightning does, I think, about 1,100 damage, which is most of a bowler's health pool.
Oh, wow.
All right. Giant in the back and Bowler in the front because Swood happened to start with both his big body cards.
I definitely agree. Well, actually, there might be a lightning. Oh no, he's got 2 elixir away, and early on the elixir is so slow that he's only going to have lightning now.
I would
Does he
do it.
cast it?
I would do it. I
Let's
would
go.
lightning.
Doesn't want to go to 0 elixir against an opponent with 7 or 8. That could have been pretty deadly. But I agree
That's
with
very
you
true.
that he should be cycling lightning. I really like your analysis there that, giant lightning versus Inferno Tower Expo, that's an 11 on 11.
Yeah.
And if your opponent drops that and you just lightning those two things, I think the giant's super favored to actually get to
Yeah.
the tower and do at least 2 to 3 punches.
Yeah, and even if it doesn't, what's your opponent gonna do with an Inferno Tower remaining? You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
good
It's
point,
just
yeah.
sitting there. All right, Giant coming across, and this time the Giant is actually tanking up for the Bowler, but a Mega Minion somehow snuck in there and started doing damage to the Bowler instead. Giant actually makes it through despite the fact that it was getting shot at, but the Mega Minion has to drop the guards to stop the Mega Minion.
This kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier about how willing are you to take damage on your tower. Flash is was even on Elixir at that point. He could have just taken a few Mega Minion swings and said, all right, now we're back at even. Opts instead to play guards. Guards don't really threaten the tower that much, and now Swood has a solid 2 Elixir advantage on Flash.
Yep. Doesn't want to play a big body in the back corner.
And he wastes it, look at that.
Yeah.
So just like that, they're back to even. Swood leaked, looks like 2 Elixir before casting a card, and that really burned him because now their Flash is caught right back up.
Leaking Elixir, never a good thing.
Never a good idea. You never know when you have an Elixir advantage too. It's really hard to guess sometimes.
Yes.
And in that situation, I think this is a good lightning for Swood. There it is.
There it is.
Oh, he didn't hit the tower.
That's not good. Giant might make it, but it's getting shot from 3 sides. That's the new triangle.
Ooh, and the Bowler was just out of range of the Expo, so the Expo locks on, and even though it had only a sliver of health left, deals over 500 damage. That formerly pristine tower is down, under 2,000.
Yeah, it's a tough spot for Swood. There he finally
Pull, look
chooses
at the
the
pull. We
lightning.
talked about this, Christian. The slow unit's pulling the other slow unit, taking him on a walk.
back.
That actually is a very, very big distraction for Flash there. Saved himself a lot of damage. The Mega Minion could have changed that push a lot.
Always remember to walk your Mega Minion, folks.
Well, that happened.
You'll regret it if you don't. Mega Minion. Ooh, the Giant barely tanking for the Mega. And it's still not dead. That Mega Minion. The
Last hit point
Oh,
matters.
the Ice Golem dies and the death damage finally takes the Mega Minion down, but definitely more troublesome than Flash would have been willing to deal with.
Flash has a slight Elixir advantage that if he can use this Inferno Tower and take the 10 Elixir push down with just 5, he'll find himself in really, really good position. I don't know if he even needed to use that log other than maybe just to cycle and do some chip damage.
Yeah, this Giant is actually going to go nowhere. Rumham, I feel like this game might go to another draw.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
We're
man.
gonna be here all night, you guys.
We're never going home. We're locked here. No, maybe not, though.
We
because-
do have draw rules.
Well, we do have draw rules, but on top of that, the lightning cycle, I think Swood's caught on. There's 2 minutes, 15 seconds left to double Elixir time. He only needs, I think, 4 lightnings to close it out, and any other damage from Giants, Bowlers, Mega Minions, etc. can reduce that number pretty dramatically.
I could take the opportunity if it happens. Actually, if the draw happens, then we'll take the opportunity on here and go through our draw rule set. But we'll see. I mean, this could still very much be a winning game. Giant Bowler is nothing to laugh at. It can do a lot of damage.
Ooh, the double Giant forcing his opponent to react on both sides.
Ooh, that's an uncomfortable Inferno Tower spot, actually. Oh, and the Ice Dome, not quite dead, but the log will finish it. Giant is slowed up. Mega Minions try to do what they
no.
can. I think this Giant's gonna get one.
Throws a punch. No, it does. He gets a punch.
That's one.
Oh, no.
And this is putting it into lightning range, and this is what we're talking about. The faster you start cycling your lightning, the more realistic it all of a sudden becomes to win the match.
And it looks like, I'm not exactly sure with all these Giants in play how exactly Flash is going to be able to deal 1,400 damage in the next minute while not getting lightning out. He's 1 lightning away from death. I think Swood has this, which game 3, but really game 2. They're tying up 1-1. I'm really counting my games now. And, throws it. Flash knows it's over.
Flash just tried to recreate the commercial there.
That's right. That's
Fireball
right.
on the Red King Tower.
There it is. Congratulations, Swood tying it up 1-1 against Flash. They go into a draw once. It seems like Swood learned from his mistakes and is like, all right, fine. Like you said, cycle those lightnings faster and he gets the damage on it. So we're now going to be going into our 4th game, but like you said, really the 3rd game that really matters to these two, having to play both of their alternate decks to see who will move on to the finals.
All right. I'm glad we avoided the draw.
Yeah, let's talk about that real quick, just in case, so people know that we do have draw rules here.
So here are draw rules. You get only one draw
right.
in a match. So if you draw once, it will be replayed. If there is another draw, if we go to the end of the game and there's another draw, then we go to what we call sudden death rules. And what that means is the player with the lowest health tower
right.
is the player who loses. Or, yeah, that's actually it. If they go to a draw. If the tower is at the lower health, then
The first
then
draw, just to be clear, so like, you win, I win, then we draw. We play that game
Play
over again. In the fourth game, where we draw a second time, whoever has the lower single tower health loses.
Yes.
So if you
Yes.
have 2 towers at 1,000 and 1,000, and I
Yeah.
have a tower at full health and 200, I lose that game.
Right.
Rainy wins.
That's right. So which actually, I mean, it even adds another strategy. You know, when we see the draws, we can talk about it again. But if you know that this is your draw match and you feel like the game is going to a draw again, you might want to start just getting that just random chip damage when you can on your
Yeah.
opponent's
Well,
tower.
they're in that situation now, right? Going into game 4, we've had the one draw. They're now tied up 1-1. This game, if it goes to a draw, would be determined by those sudden death rules, correct? Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yep.
It is an Expo mirror match as well. So we're going to see a lot of spells and a lot of struggle to get your Expo set up. This could go either way. Yeah.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, here it is. Let's see which one of these two players will move on to the finals.
Right. Ice Spirit, Ice Spirit. Who's gonna play the first crossbow?
When I look at their crossbow or their Expo decks, gosh, you have such bad habits, Rainy. Knock it. They actually, get this, not only is it an Expo mirror match, it is a literal mirror match. They are playing 8 cards
really?
the same. Well, remember, their clan mates who probably prepared for this together, so they determined
This is the best. This is the best one.
the best thing we can do. Right.
Makes sense.
So they're actually playing, we'll go over it, you're gonna see all 8 cards. Log Fireballs, their spells. Expo, Inferno Towers, their buildings. Ice Golem, guards, Mega Minion, Ice Spirit for troops.
Woo! All right, who can play it better? This is the true question.
It looks
I
like
love it.
Flash opens up the opportunity for him to leapfrog Expos.
I think that's the smartest thing here because
Yep.
what you're afraid of when you play your Expo is the Inferno Tower, right? So by having another Expo already on the board, Flash has the ability to play his Expo while the Inferno Tower is still setting up. It's getting shot already, and then you have 2 Expos knocking it down.
I think, however, Flash decides not to do that just yet. Maybe after this Mega Minion comes across. It's one swing, it's another. That's about all it can do, but
Both of them are very careful. They're leaking Elixir because they don't want to make the wrong play. Even though Elixir efficiency is very important, this is all going to come down to who just gets one clean Expo going crazy on the opponent.
that Mega Minion is actually slowed down. It's gonna lose the fight. But the Ice Spirit jumps
still
up and it's
going.
out of tower range. That buys enough time for the
That'll do
Expo to push Swood's tower health down to 818, and Flash takes the early lead in this match and doesn't look like he wants to slow down. I think so far decision making has been on Flash's side.
I think this is Flash's probably his best deck. I think he plays Lava Hound. It's his favorite sort of tanky build deck, but he wants this deck in the final game of the match because this is the one he's most comfortable with and he thinks the most powerful in the format.
Hard to argue
I think
against it.
Yeah, at this point, I don't think he even has to play another offensive Expo. He can play all of his Expos in the center there. There's no lightning on his opponent's side, so he can just sit there, shoot anything that comes down.
Yeah.
And he knows it. Ho, 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 ho.
Yeah. It's so hard to come back in an Expo mirror match if you get this far behind.
35 seconds, especially once you go into overtime, it just comes down to, well, who gets the first shot off. Oh no, the Expos are gonna duel. Oh, the Ice Spirit gets shot off the board.
Good defense on Flash's side. And the center place Expos, definitely something that I think Marcel P did very well when he was having his run in the first Coronation Day.
Now this is going to be 2 fireballs. There's not enough for a log and a fireball to take it down. So Flash has to play through 2 more cycles of his deck, and we can see already that Swood's playing very aggressive. He knows
He's gotta go.
He's got to go.
Yeah.
And the Expo was placed up actually further than it normally is because Swood knows if he plays it 1 square back using the maximum amount of range, he's in real big trouble.
He's got to get to it. He's got to get to it.
Oh, no, wait.
Takes it just in the nick of time there. Really coming down to the final seconds, but it is going to be Flash who moves on to be our first finalist of our Coronation Day number 3. That was
Okay.
like that was incredible.
There were two really key plays there that showed how experienced and how smart of players these two are. Swood knew
He's
if he
gotta cycle
played his
fireball.
Expo, okay, you can play the Expo one tile off of the bridge. If you play it there though, it's within range of a fireball hitting both. Swood smashes the Expo as far up as he can so that Flash can't fireball it.
Both.
And that gave the Expo a little extra health, a little extra time and damage.
Woo. Sorry, forgive your ears.
Yeah.
We're sorry. That was incredible though.
Flash had a greedy log I didn't really like. Maybe he was just playing it to get rid of stuff in the way, but he actually logged and it just put the tower down to 48 health.
yeah.
A fireball would have
my
been
gosh.
the same there, so I don't know if that log was necessary, and he almost lost the game for it.
Woo, that was close. Now, we were talking about the thing of if your opponent spends a spell, right, a fireball, he's 4 down. And Swood clearly saw that because he's like, all right, now Flash has to go. He's gonna spend a fireball, so now I have this huge advantage. What if I guess, do you think Flash knew that he was still gonna be okay, or do you think he cut it close?
You might have hoped.
Okay.
That's as close as we can get. Yeah, as close
I
as we
think let's take a look at some
Minor
of these.
Lava Hound here.
Minor Lava Hound, we've seen this actually a surprising amount of times in the Clash Royale North American Open. Lava Hound is kind of one of the popular kind of side decks that we would see. Expo and Giant Bowler taking kind of the main stage, but for very good reasons. I mean, look at how much damage that thing did.
Yeah, it's such a great combo. It's only 10 elixir, which sounds like a lot. It's all the elixir I can have.
Yeah.
But think how effective. And that can shred a tower in a way that a lot of other 10 elixir pushes can't. And it requires very specific counters. That Expo early on, locking on, was really the key in the match. It changed it so that Flash could start playing defensively instead of feeling like he had to struggle and keep playing Expos at the river.
All right, well, let's go ahead and pull up the brackets now. As we're just finishing our first semifinal match, we have one more to go before the finals. So like we said, Flash moving on there to be the finalist. Up next is going to be Flawless versus EsoPa. So here's the thing. Rumham, your pick is in. Flash has made it to the finals,
Yeah.
and now this comes down to you, Rainey, because you said EsoPa is your
Pressure's
pick.
on.
Are you still confident EsoPa can take this one against Flawless?
I'm nervous because Flawless can never lose.
That's right, yeah.
He can never lose. So I don't know. Now that Rumham's pick has made it, I'm really kind of the pressure's on.
Yeah, it is.
I really need my pick to make it.
Rainey's got a good eye, though. Because remember in Season 1 of Super Magical Cup, early on, like in the first 3 weeks of Season 1 of Super Magical Cup, I was like, I think Woody's a really good player. And Rainey was like, I think Clark Kent's a really good player. And
both
weeks
made it.
later, they
Called it.
finished first and second in the leaderboard. So I really trust Rainey's eye for skill. I remember the first time that we ever met and sat down, he pulled up games and he's like, I think these players are like better than other players. And he was talking about Clark Kent and Manufan, 2 players who went on to be very, very decorated in the tournament community.
Okay,
Very
well,
true.
let's check out the decks for our next match.
All right.
All right.
Flawless and EsoPa. So there you go, guys.
Oh,
EsoPa, the player to watch.
Happy?
Look at that guy. Look
Whoa.
at that cute little
Does
Inferno
Flawless
Dragon.
really have an Inferno Dragon
Yes,
in
he
his deck?
does.
That is nuts.
Look at it.
That's something we haven't seen a ton of. It should be really good against all these Expos. That's where I imagine that card comes into play, is against the Expo decks. I think that's an Inferno Tower, not an Inferno Dragon. I'm looking at that deck list. I didn't look at Inferno Tower. I was really excited. I was
You're
like,
right, because we didn't see it in the...
I was like, we would have seen that card.
He was
man.
holding
Yeah,
on
you're
to
right.
it.
You're right.
I'm
That's
so
his- no, no.
disappointed.
But same thing though, same idea though, right?
Yes.
It's a
just doesn't
high
fly.
health burning unit that is going to take down the enemy Expos. The Goblin Barrel though, very real.
Well,
Yeah.
look, talk to me about Inferno Dragon versus Inferno Tower. Would you rather, in a situation going in Siege, have one or the other, or is it kind of even?
It almost... So, defensively, always Inferno Tower. Inferno Tower is, I think, just kind of better
Okay.
in many ways. I mean, it's a ground unit, so it can be hit
Inferno
by...
Dragon's a legendary.
Inferno Dragon moves.
Yes.
In a foot race, the dragon would win. Yeah.
Yes. And so I think that the Inferno Dragon gains its advantage just in the fact that it brings that ability for that burn up to an aggressive state.
Gotcha.
Have you ever imagined an Inferno Tower shooting a tower?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, always.
You get to live that dream with Inferno Dragon.
Let's
Here
see
we are.
who's going to take it flawless.
Oh, so I guess-
EsoPa.
Uh-oh.
What
Do you have it?
start.
We already know where they're starting off at here. EsoPa just throws the Goblin Barrel right away and says, what do you got? What do you have here?
Look
Show
at
me.
that. 2 stabs from the Goblin Barrel, 400 damage. For 3 costs, you're already doing more damage than a fireball.
Huge advantage for EsoPa is that, well, he knows what his opponent has because all these players get to see each other's decks
Yes.
before the matches. He knows there's only a log and a fireball. You throw that Goblin Barrel, there's a 50-50 chance that log ain't in his opening hand, and he's gonna have to fireball it or take the damage.
Ooh, Skeleton Army plus Miner taking up.
Oh, the Ice Golem! Look at that!
Let's go! Oh no! I think that one Skeleton got 2 swings. I think he's pretty happy.
The goal of the Ice Golem there was to push the Miner off and force it to retarget onto the Ice Golem. That works really well when the Miner is either on the left or right side, but it's not very good when the Miner's on the back side of the tower like it was there.
What a big opening for EsoPa. And I mean, talk about cheap attacking cards. Flawless basically has to concede that Princess getting another shot in order to get his Expo out. And still EsoPa has the elixir enough to just stop that Expo cold.
I feel like EsoPa is really controlling the tempo of the game. He's the one playing cards like Miner, Goblin Barrel, Princess, that forces Flawless to react. Flawless has one huge trump card, right? The Expo is the most you have to react to me card, but as long as EsoPa can keep on the pattern of Miner, react to this, Goblin Barrel, react to this, it's gonna be really, really tough for Flawless to ever set up a really good Expo.
Man, and just those 2 stabs is already kind of buying back the cost of the Goblin Barrel.
That Expo's gonna turn around.
Yep. I think the Miner is not long to live, but technically it would have to turn around if it was still alive. It did turn around for a second, but locks onto the tower. Uh-oh. And the Ice Golem is coming out to give it a big hug. A big zap will be crisis management for EsoPa.
EsoPa has not forsaken the zap like so many other players in this tournament, and that is, oh no, the Ice Spirit.
This is actually a big blow to EsoPa's lead. I mean, this is one of the big things about tempo decks, is it feels like you're so far ahead in the game, but the executional requirement is so high that you see EsoPa messing it up.
Zap, he does!
There it is.
The difference, see, Zap gives him so much more advantage. He can reset and retarget the Inferno Tower. He can reset and retarget the Expo as well, and both of those things are really, really important.
Nice use of the Skeletons to extend, tanking up that Expo shot, and the log will clear the way for the Skeleton Army. And it swarms that down. Play a card. No, plays it too late. The Princess is going to get one more shot here.
If he can hold off for 10 seconds, I think EsoPa can win this game in overtime.
EsoPa needs to play carefully. I like that. Yeah. Do not get ahead of yourself. Make sure that you have something for the Expo. No. Wait, who's going to win?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
13 health.
Expo takes it. Oh, there you go. Flawless.
Wow.
Showing that Expo is just 13 points better than the Goblin Barrel in that situation.
Of inches right there. And that just comes down to Rainey's point. EsoPa, if he just played defensively, kept taking his shots when he could, got a little greedy, tried to play a little high tempo too early. Maybe like a minute left on the clock, and he should have switched to there 30 seconds, 15 seconds left. If you're way ahead in tower damage, once you go into overtime, hugely favored, because the first tower that goes down, game's over. Right there, right? And he started to play like that a little too early and gave that opportunity for Flawless to
slight greed, maybe. Just a little slight greed.
You know, the really hurtful thing is, depending on how the elixir came out, the right choice might have actually been to just Goblin Barrel in front of your tower. That way the goblins would tank the crossbow for a little bit longer for you to place the next thing to guard against that crossbow. That crossbow was not long to live. There was only a sliver of health left. If EsoPa had cleared the threat of the Goblin Barrel out, that tower was low enough health that he could just throw whatever spells he had. He had another chance to do that. EsoPa tried to squeeze that in while the Expo existed, and those few bolts were enough to clean the clock.
That's gotta be so hard though. Like right when you see victory, you're like, I know my Goblin Barrels can do this.
Here's the key.
There.
Flawless has the world's largest exhale after that game. EsoPa, it's good that he's a very even-tempered sort of person, because that's the sort of loss that can really put you on tilt, that can really psych you out, and really start to make you play a little different than you normally would. And I think EsoPa has the mindset for it, but he needs to just make sure that he doesn't completely throw the game away because of strong emotions.
Yeah, 13 points.
Strong emotions. Would definitely have to buy another iPhone if that happened to me.
Here we go. We've got Goblin Barrel.
Oh no! The positioning on the Skeleton Army was not good, and the Bowler just went to town. Rolled a spare, 2 rocks, and the Skeleton Army was gone.
Even though the log took the tower out in the middle, I'm pretty comfortable. Oh wow! Woo. Just blinked that thing right off the board. So he's still leading in tower damage. I think he's comfortably still in this match, but you're right. You cannot afford to make mistakes like that over and over again.
Yes.
Flawless Giant Bowler Lightning. Actually, not the exact same deck as what we saw earlier, but similar. Wow.
And just every single time, I mean, that's 4 elixir to answer 3, and you got damage in with the 3. That definitely justifies it. And EsoPa's deck is well designed to be able to defend with a slight elixir disadvantage even. I mean, he's played Goblin Barrel and Miner, and he still has a Skeleton Army to defend this Giant Push and the Musketeer in the back. That's actually a very well-tuned deck.
EsoPa is such a well-tuned deck here. Check this out. He has Skeleton Army on the right side, Princess in the middle, Goblin Barrel at your tower. Where are you going to log? He had to use, I mean, Flawless chose to use log on the right side. That leaves the Princess free to just keep shooting, keep shooting. You know, he probably has another Princess in hand by now at this point, because that's how long the Princess has been around. And on top of that, once the log comes out, just throw that Goblin Barrel. You know they don't have an answer for it.
Definitely, it's getting to be a tricky spot because if EsoPa plays the Princess on the right, like he does, you can't even log both of them.
Yeah. Now,
you're gonna have to choose one or the other, and you get punished by the Goblin Barrel.
Got to be real careful though about accidentally putting the Skeleton Army down near either of them, because then you're giving up a very, very valuable log.
Yes. Here comes the Inferno Tower. All right, how is the defense going to come out? Where are you going to spend your log? Big Lightning eliminates one of the princesses. The log is being used on defense, and I think EsoPa's going to be more than happy with that because now he still has two princesses. Big Arrow wins! That is
the fancy feat!
Oh my God, where is the princess? You can't see her. She's left, she's right, she's shooting your tower on the left side. And finally does that princess go down. How long did that princess survive?
I mean, how much damage does the princess do?
Infinite
damage. You have to deal with her. You cannot just ignore her and let her walk into the towers like every other troop in the game, because that's it. Never does it.
You have no log. And now there's a princess and a miner. Has to arrow down the Goblin Barrel, but now that princess is just shooting for infinity and beyond.
EsoPa's got it.
That shows just how many great log and arrow targets there are in EsoPa's deck. Flawless had log and arrows and was struggling to actually keep them off the board.
Which was so crazy, because I was going to ask, you know, when earlier on, I think he went against someone who also had log and arrows against his princess. And like, if your opponent has such easy answers, like, when do you even get a chance to play him?
Yeah, I think that Flawless is probably sitting there going, how did I lose to that deck? Like, I have the cards to beat that deck in my deck, and he just couldn't seem to put it together.
How did that happen? He had two princesses out there for a really long time. And
yeah, I mean, I think
no answer?
I think what Flawless was doing there was he was investing Giant plus Bowler, and he really needed the Lightning to get by the Inferno Tower of EsoPa's. So EsoPa just puts down 5 and says, beat this.
Deal with
and
it.
in order to do that, Flawless needed 16? Ugh. You know, he needed so much more elixir to crack through just a simple Inferno Tower because there's no zap. There's no, I mean, log doesn't reset anything, and arrows doesn't do that either. So,
What are you going to do?
game 3,
Here we go.
but no more Goblin Barrel deck.
Rainey, log is such a popular card. We see it used by most of these players. Why? Is it just because it's so cheap and does what a lot of other more expensive cards do?
It's cheap and it does more damage than arrows, and it also has the knockback factor, which essentially
Just a way better
increases the
arrows.
damage that it does because your tower is constantly pinging units. If you push them back and reset their positioning, I mean, just as run speed is important to aggressive cards doing a lot of damage, essentially if you push a card back, you're reducing the damage that it can do. That's a big open for the Hog Rider. I think it's going to get
3 hits.
Oh, 3 hits.
That was great. EsoPa, I mean, Hog Rider against Bowler is not good for the Hog Rider at all, but with very skillful use of only 3 elixir, an Ice Spirit, and a Zap, he was able to do significant damage to that tower.
He used mini skeletons and then the Ice Spirit. That will take down the Musketeer. And that's cheap defense. When you have both 1 elixir cards, you open up lines of play that are not normally that possible, but definitely something that is going to give Flawless a lot of trouble.
Keep in mind, EsoPa has Lightning as his 8th card. So if he, especially when we get into double elixir time, can play a Hog Rider and Flawless ever makes a defense of something like Mega Minion plus Musketeer, he is going to get gobbled up by a very valuable Lightning. He's got to avoid that.
All right, Skeleton's making their way across, but I don't think they're going to convert into very much.
EsoPa has a pretty significant elixir lead because just there, Flawless spent 8 elixir, Tombstone and Bowler, to stop a single 4 elixir Hog Rider. That gave EsoPa the opportunity to sort of see what his opponent's doing, counter for it. I think he's pretty happy with how that turned out.
Let's go.
Good damage done by Flawless so far.
Pretty valuable log there.
Is he going to drop the Bowler? Oh,
Doesn't have the elixir for it, he just played Tombstone.
I think Zap is a big idea here. Oh, there it is. Hog's going to get 3 swings, maybe another one.
Wow.
Now
Hog Rider's
EsoPa
Zap.
can just sit back.
You're right, because he has, well, you're right, because he only needs a Lightning and a princess shot would do it. Not a lightning and a zap. 2 lightnings will definitely do it. So he's going to need. The princess has been really effective at the river, though. If you've noticed, there's been a lot of opportunities where he's playing the princess, and even if it gets long, he's doing 140 to the tower while the opponent's doing like 100. Not the end of the world.
Wow, actually use that lightning to clear out. I bet EsoPa would have wished that he waited a little longer for that bowler to get placed on the floor. But now there's a pretty complicated defense. Oh, it doesn't quite get the jump. There's actually a timing where you can place the hog.
One hit.
No. Doesn't quite get it.
But he did keep damage off his tower, which is more important.
Yes.
EsoPa has the game on lock in the next 15 seconds. He just has to not lose, right?
Lightning.
So the Hog Rider has a. Oh no!
Wait.
I actually think that's the right choice.
Or no, he can't long.
I actually think that lightning is a right choice, because unlike the first game that they played, you want to make sure that you secure stable footing.
Okay.
Because at any time, literally any time right now, he can play there.
There it is.
Lightning
You're right. There it is. EsoPa taking it 2-1 against Flawless. And now both of your picks, gentlemen, Rumham picking Flash, Rainy picking EsoPa, are now moving on to the final.
I'm coming for you,
Yeah,
Rain
so
Man.
this is great. This is the red versus blue. This is
really
it.
I'm very bad at counting. You should not call me the Rain Man.
Oh, you were saying something about the Hog Rider in the game, but you didn't.
Yeah, actually,
Change your thought.
thank you for bringing that up,
You're
Ella.
welcome.
I really like having the opportunity to say really obscure things that maybe people won't understand. But
That's why we love you.
if there's a bowler coming down the bridge and you play the Hog Rider at just the right spot, bowler will turn around and go "Urgh," and throw a boulder at the Hog Rider. The Hog Rider will jump and avoid the boulder entirely. Then the bowler will turn around and say, I want to chase you, Hog Rider, and walk all the way back, following the Hog Rider back to its own tower. And the Hog Rider is just going to be swinging and swinging and swinging and swinging, and you're going to get a ton of damage.
I couldn't keep up.
Okay.
All right, let's go and look at the replay here. Bringing up Rainy, your first card, the Goblin Barrel.
Goblin Barrel.
I love this card so much, but really I think the big thing was not just the Goblin Barrel, but the Goblin Barrel in conjunction with the Princess and just the play in front of the bridge. Yeah, the Skeleton Army, just all of it combined. That's really what EsoPa did to craft his victory in the match.
Look at this skillful. Look at that. Okay, it freezes the bowler for 2 seconds, giving a shot. Freezes for another half second, which gets 3 swings.
That is extracting every bit of health out of the rock there.
Yeah.
in order to do the maximum amount of offense.
Yeah, Tombstone very late, but the bad thing about that is because you know that the Hog Rider is so far down the bridge already, you need to play the Tombstone near your tower, because otherwise the Hog Rider is just going to ignore it, keep going and start hitting the tower. Had to play the Tombstone near the tower, one well-timed zap right when the Hog Rider did its last swing to break the Tombstone and have the extra skeletons pop, killed all the skeletons, earned that Hog Rider a bunch of swings.
With Hog Rider is cards that can do resets like Zap or Ice Spirit or Lightning. Are those essential to having an effective Hog Rider deck?
Yes, I think so, because Hog Rider is the kind of card where it makes all the difference whether you get one swing, 2 swings, 3 swings are all
That can change the game.
incredibly. I mean, a Hog Rider, depending on what they drop, buys itself back with 1 swing, or depending on what they drop, buys itself back again with 2 swings. And once you start getting 3 or 4, you start getting into this world where you're doing a ton of damage. And oftentimes, it's just the littlest differences, right? For example, if you have a mini P.E.K.K.A. standing there, ready to 2-shot your Hog Rider, normally you would get 1 swing off.
Yeah.
But say, for example, you have something like Ice Spirit. All of a sudden, that mini P.E.K.K.A. that would have normally given the Hog only 1 swing, if it gets frozen, now the Hog gets 2, and now you have this mini P.E.K.K.A. that's really easy to take care of once it crosses your bridge, and you're like, I'm fine with that trade.
Yeah. So if you guys at home running Hog Riders, get something that can stop
Yes.
other things.
Yes.
Let's take a look at our bracket.
Yeah, let's pull it up so far. Again, we are now moving into the finals, and you guys are great at predicting Flash
Seriously.
and EsoPa. I mean, I was going to ask you guys kind of again who you think should take
This
it,
is
but we know.
where there can only be one
There can
winner.
only be one.
Much like when these players go to the crown duels, there can only be one. There can only be one player that wins. So is it going to be Flash? Or is it going to be EsoPa?
EsoPa. Again, these guys are playing for $2,000. So first place today takes home $2,000, and they have that chance to move on to the arena battles. After 16 Coronation days, 8 go into the arena battles. After those arena battles, going on to the crown duels.
Someone here today could be making $15,000.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Eventually in the future,
Yeah.
they're playing for a lot of stuff. And again, that trip to Supercell HQ. All right, now, the moment we've all been waiting for, the final battle of Coronation Day number 3. Let's go ahead and pull up the decks between both these players. We've seen them. Let's talk about it one more time. EsoPa, Flash, looks like, all right, again, you guys know what you guys are picking.
What does that
I
noise
want to hear
mean?
you guys kind of argue for your case. So, Rumham, we're going to start with you. Why is Flash the man to watch right now?
You know, I'm not really sure how EsoPa is going to beat that Lava Hound deck. I mean, he doesn't have arrows in either deck, so the Lava Pups, minions, minion horde are all going to be really strong. All 4 decks involve Inferno Towers, so you got to get around that. But Flash has a very cheap Zap, Fireball,
Swarmy cards, all sorts of stuff that can overwhelm it. I can almost guarantee Flash's Lava Hound deck will pick up at least 1 win in this matchup.
the question is, can Flash take it home with Expo?
Yeah,
Not for EsoPa.
I agree. I think that the really big danger for Flash right now is if he wins with his Lava Hound deck, he has to play Expo twice. And I think that EsoPa is a good enough player, as we've seen. He's played Expo already in this Coronation Day. I think that EsoPa's 2 decks, especially his Goblin Barrel deck, has been proved to be quite effective against Expo. He has a lot of ways to control it. Execution pending, right? I mean, that was a very close game.
Absolutely. I think what's really important, though, is that we have 2 players who are big members of the community. They're playing a lot of tournaments. Sometimes they stream, write deck strategy guides and all that. They're 2 very deserving players who have fought their way through thousands of competitors to get here. And even though I'm picking Flash for the sake of picking, both of these players are super deserving to go to the arena battles. And I think I would be happy as a member of the community to hold up either as my crown duel champion at the end.
That's good to know. I like that. You're making that way just in case Flash loses, you're good.
The matchup I think will be the most interesting to watch in my mind is how will the Lava Hound deck match up with the Hog Rider deck? Because this is a deck where you would think, okay, he plays Lava Hound, that opens up a big opportunity for the Hog Rider to come in and do a lot of damage, but at the same token, how does a Hog Rider deck stop a Lava Hound, right? You don't have the big options that really give you what you need, the firepower you need to stop. Oh my God.
He just used Zap, though. Oh, the Skeleton Army.
That's a perfect choice against Goblin Barrel. It's actually an even trade, and you are putting more than enough units to protect your tower from any kind of stabbing.
We mentioned earlier how great Skeleton Army is against Miner because you just surround the tower, and no matter where the Miner pops up, there's probably a skeleton nearby. Yes. That is doubly true with Goblin Barrel because there's all 3 points of the goblins. The skeletons can distract all 3 of them.
I think currently EsoPa needs to put a lot of focus on princess placement if he wants to overcome the defensive capabilities of Flash. Because in that situation, the big answer is have a princess at the bridge shooting the tower, because then it doesn't matter where you drop the Skeleton Army, it's just going to get wiped out.
Oh no, and Lava Hound goes down very early, but the Miner does pop up the tank for some of it. The question, ooh, the Zap. You can see them trading spells. They're being very particular with their spell use because they know, especially EsoPa knows, he's got to be very, very judicious with that Zap. He needs Zap to get those minions or skeleton armies off the board.
Ooh, opt to spend Zap. Now here's the thing that I was talking about. When you play the Miner, you actually have a tank for your Goblin Barrel, so you can start playing some mind game spots with your Goblin Barrel, and I think that would have helped EsoPa a lot because that Zap came down on top of Flash's tower.
He should have been watching your art corner.
He should have been.
I think EsoPa is really going to have to lean on Princess here in order to win this match. There are so many great Princess targets that he's going to have to pull off what he did in those earlier games where he just played a very defensive Princess and forced the opponent to sort of react in some way. Like, oh, I have to log this Princess in the middle, and that gives you great opportunities to play stuff like Goblin Barrel, Skeleton Army right after.
Very interesting choice, and I think it's paying off for EsoPa in a big way. Play the Princess instead of something like a Hog Rider. I mean, kind of using it in a similar vein, right? Punishing the Lava Hound drop. And he actually gets a ton of damage, and now he turns his Inferno Tower around to deal with this Lava Hound.
I think that went way better for Flash, though. Whoa!
Mind game it!
Especially when you consider that the Lava Hound just totally rode right on by the Inferno Tower. The Inferno Tower did turn around and attack it, but EsoPa lost half of the remaining health on his tower.
Ooh, Fireball gets spent, and I don't know, he has to spend the Minion Horde, and that is a less than ideal card to spend, and they also get zapped. Miner gets a good amount of damage, and that's a pretty big opening for EsoPa. Obviously not.
How did he guess
How in the world did he know?
How often do you see pre-fire Miners?
That was amazing.
That, I mean, I have to only imagine that these players are pulling out all their stops because that was looking into the future.
Wow.
Zaps out of his hand. So that Inferno Tower is just going to work there, and there's a little bit of time left. Oh, the Skeleton Army again. I think that EsoPa kind of needs to roll his log down there before the Skeleton Army shows up.
Right.
There it is, Miner. One more hit. All right, Flash is going to take that one, going 1-0 against EsoPa. One game. No, this is now final, so we are best of 5. So they have to win with 3.
They have to win 3
games.
games.
2 times with one deck. one time with the other. They get to choose.
Unless you're really crafty and you pull out a third totally different deck.
How did you get that here?
Yeah,
And then
no,
you're
that's-
out.
you
So
cheated, no.
So I probably wouldn't do that.
Yeah, don't do that. But you're right. Both of them have the option to win twice. So now Flash has the option of playing his Lava Hound deck again, or he can switch and try to win 2 games
Mind
with his
games.
Expo deck. EsoPa, though, does he want to stay with Goblin Barrel and take his chances against the Expo deck with Goblin Barrel?
Okay.
I think that the line of play got very complicated, right? As we watched the game, Rumham and I were talking about things like, okay, he needs to play the Goblin Barrel with the log, or sometimes he would need to play the Miner, but then when he plays the Goblin Barrel, he needs to make sure it doesn't get zapped. And then that other time, he played the Goblin Barrel, and then the Minion Horde was played on top of it, and that's going to take down the Miner and the Goblin Barrel. And so it starts getting really complicated. And I think if there's anybody who can make it happen, it's EsoPa, but that takes a lot of focus. That takes a lot of discipline. Is EsoPa up to that? That's going to be what makes a champion, right?
Do you think his other deck would have been a better match for that?
It's crazy because we saw EsoPa play against a deck that seemed like it had all the answers, and yet
He still
he
came
beat
out
it.
on top.
That deck seemed like it really had the answers. So the Skeleton Army was the MVP there for Flash because it stopped Goblin Barrel, Miner, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
All right, well, Flash again up 1-0. If he takes this next one, he has to win again. They have to win 3 times here in the finals, but if they do, $2,000.
Ooh, guards dropped in preparation for that Goblin Barrel coming down. And I mean,
It's worth mentioning that was you could not have placed them on a more accurate square. Those guards actually hit 2 of the goblins instead of just 1 like they could have in a lot of other placements.
and this is why I'm saying if you're not going to mind game it, just let the goblins surround, because then you minimize the chances of that happening. Skeleton Army plus the Inferno Tower, that's going to be pretty solid. The log is going to clear out the Skeleton Army, the Inferno Tower has done its job.
Flash can't believe it.
Yeah,
He
these
thought he had
players
the
are
answer.
playing really well. Their responses are lightning quick.
Yes.
If you have ever been in this situation, you know how fast you need to be to make sure you pull off defenses like this so cleanly.
Yeah, the Clash Royale North American Open really tests your deck building skills with the double deck format, but also your strategic planning of how to navigate the matchups between your decks, and of course your reaction speed. Rainey and I both love building decks and are very strategic. I don't think either of us have the reaction times to play at this level.
Definitely not. And I think this is a big opening
wow.
for the crossbow.
That's it.
And it's locked onto the tower. Flash got connected on by a big Goblin Barrel. Actually, the zap is going to extend the lifeline just a little bit, and EsoPa is still ahead.
He used the zap there along to freeze the Ice Spirit for a second so that the Mega Minion could actually clean it out instead of getting frozen. He needed the Mega Minion to hit that Expo because the longer, 2 seconds of freeze, that Expo's just going, right?
Yep. Yes, and we saw that too in the replay.
Less than 250 damage separate these players though, so it's certainly anyone's game.
He's trying to mind game on the corner, but there's no response actually. And that's going to be Flash's, that's indication that Flash is going for offense entirely, right? When he opts to spend nothing on defense, that's him trying to gain an elixir advantage.
Princess just in time.
I don't think that
gosh.
Princess, I think he would almost have rather had the Princess not lock onto the tower, or like have the Expo lock on and
Yeah,
the Princess
that
shoot it
ma-
out.
yeah, that makes
Because the
sense.
Princess has so few hit points, it's not really tanking anything.
for long.
Yeah.
There's and Zap is definitely not in cycle for
the tower
EsoPa.
again?
This might be a big loss for EsoPa.
EsoPa, so used to playing tempo decks, is really falling behind in the tempo of this game. He's just finding himself on the back foot. He's having to react to Flash's big moves as opposed to keeping Flash on the back foot with Princess and Goblin Barrel and all these other cards that are normally forcing reactions out of your opponent. 15 seconds though, could work. Oh, Fireball.
Nope. Fireball says no.
I think EsoPa's going to get locked out of this match again. And really, I think it comes down to the fact that the Expo defense is something that EsoPa has just to be a little more careful of. I think he has to respect it a little bit more.
There we go. Flash now going up 2-0 against EsoPa. He is one more game away from taking home
We've
that
seen
$2,000.
people come back in the past couple of days
right.
Yeah.
after being down 2. How
What happened in Coronation Day 1 there?
That's exactly
finals.
That's exactly what
all
happened.
5.
Yeah.
My
He
goodness.
came back 1-3 in a row.
Ender was down 2-0 and went win
Yep.
to lock it up.
How can EsoPa do that?
EsoPa, I think he might have to switch decks here. He's seen both decks now,
Yeah.
and both decks, this Goblin Barrel thing hasn't gone very well for him. I think he might be better off switching decks, trying his luck, winning those 2, and even if you have a bad matchup going into a critical game 5, at least you're in the critical game 5.
Right.
What I think is great about that too is now EsoPa gets to switch it up. He knows the 2 decks, and now he also is going to know which deck that Flash has to continue to play.
Well, actually, no, because
No.
Flash can win with either deck. That's
He's right. He's only with one.
Flash
or one
is-
each.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
Flash
that's
has actually
right.
kind of maintained the mind games. He won
Oh,
one game
man.
with each.
Flash
so
is
Ahsopa
good
don't
mind
know who
game
he's going
position.
against.
Take
All right.
note. Mind game corner over there.
Mind game corner.
Yeah.
I think that's really smart. I mean, in the best of 5 finals, when you have 2 decks, you can choose which one you want to win twice with. Flash opted to play both his decks, and so now they both have 1 win stacked on. So it just becomes a question of like, which
one do I
will
wanna do?
pick?
First
Yeah.
time that's happened, actually, in the Coronation days, is both times in the both 2 previous finals, player won with the preferred deck twice and then was forced to switch in order to win it.
All right now it is all on the line for EsoPa.
Let's
He's
see if
got
Flash
to
can
win
do it.
every single game now. Flash just one away.
He's playing his Expo. You can tell right away from the Ice Golem that is the Expo deck.
Log kills the princess, but now there's no log for skeleton army. Uh-oh. And let's see how far the skeleton army can go.
Well, for the most part, they at least forced an exchange
Yes.
out. The miner did a tiny bit of damage. The real danger is actually that Mega Minion that is still full health and coming back.
Yeah, I mean, these air interactions. Oh no, the Inferno Tower is not
Not
quite
in
in range, and that
square
could be
away.
a big mistake, actually. That could end the game for EsoPa. I mean, what more does he have? That crossbow is still at 60% health.
Get to his zap again. Get to his
He's
zap.
only got 3 elixir, and he's behind. Not only is he behind in damage, he was behind by 2 elixir. So even if Flash, had an answer he wanted to use, he could just get rid of that princess. Opted to just let the damage go through because, hey, it was almost 2,000. Why not?
Yeah. That hurts a lot for EsoPa, and I think it might just be a little bit too much for him. Flash playing solidly in the finals could just earn the win here. Miner is going to tank for the goblins, and actually, no, the positioning was wrong. And that's another reason why you want to make sure you push your goblin barrel outside of that kill zone, that area around the tower.
Those center expos are insane. Not only do they stop incoming pushes across the river, but the range is so wide, they can cover really the back lines of anything. Miners don't really have a place to go with a center-placed expo like that. And of course, if Flash can cycle back to his expo, he can play a second one at the river with it being protected by the first one.
Mega Minion will come up and clean that expo up. Princess gets logged down. And I think it's just such a rough spot to have such a health deficit at this point in the game. Flash has been doing really well, kind of investing in the future. That Mega Minion that he dropped a long time ago is now contributing to this Expo push. Here comes a big Goblin Barrel. What's the answer? Logs.
Wow.
Perfect placement, and right now Flash's execution is top notch.
Absolutely. I mean, this is we mentioned earlier in the pre-match thing when I picked Flash to win.
That's right.
That great players say Flash is a great player, and I think we're seeing that right here. His execution, even his sequencing, his strategic planning is so good. We've seen predictive arrows, predictive fireballs land really well, and I think that's just Flash feeling so comfortable with the matchup, knowing it inside and out. And I think within 20 seconds, he might be able to close out this game. He's going to need a log and another fireball.
That's actually really interesting. The more Flash actually throws these fireballs to try to close the game, actually it could get really scary. Yeah, it could get really scary for him. Here comes, do you have log? I'm not sure. He's going for the win.
He's going for the win, but it was closer than it
That
looked.
was so close.
Oh my
but
gosh.
Flash is picking it up 3-0 against EsoPa here in the finals, taking home $2,000 and that chance to move on to the arena battles. Congratulations.
Congrats. That was awesome. Talk a little bit about.
Winner!
Oh, yeah.
That's me
You're
teasing
also
Randy.
the winner.
It's all right. Your man
okay,
got to the
baby.
finals. My man was out in the round of 16, even before the
Yeah.
round 8, so you're good.
It's okay. He'll be back, right?
Let's take a look at the replay here for the miner. Now, I hope this is the pre-thought out, the pre-fired miner here.
That was great.
Against it is. No, oh no.
No, it's
Okay.
not. Miner Minion is a very basic push that was developed soon after the Miner got released, and for big reasons, right? The minions are tough to deal with, and with a Miner tanking for the minions, stopping the tower from taking them down, it all of a sudden becomes a dangerous push.
Ooh, these expos are so tough to deal with. Like I said, in this game, you really wanted to see EsoPa constantly keep the pressure on. Never actually get the 10 elixir, but every time you hit around 6, throw one of those goblin barrels, put a princess down, keep your opponent on their toes. Once a Flash was able to get an expo down, it switched the tide of the game. Now EsoPa had to react to Flash, and that's where those tempo decks are not nearly as strong.
Talk
I
a little
think-
bit. Oh, go ahead.
I think it's just really tough for EsoPa because Flash's execution and strategy was on point. I think there were moments where, oh God, look at how much damage this Expo is doing. I think there were points in time towards the end of this game, actually, that EsoPa started playing really well, kind of playing one step ahead of Flash and keeping ahead of his spell usage. And that's really kind of the point of EsoPa's deck in many ways, right? You need to be able to get ahead of their spell usage. As we saw very well in the semifinals, it was just tough to do that against Flash because he was so on it. He knew the options that he had to save, and he only released that option when he knew that he had the win. Perfect execution, and Flash takes the victory over EsoPa.
Yeah. There we go. Congratulations again to Flash for being our third Coronation Day champion. Let's go ahead, Rumham Rainey, pulling up the brackets here for the day. Just walk us through just kind of the story of the day, the clan battles, the Cold Wars, all of it.
Well, Flash walked to the finals, stepping over 2 clanmates on the way. Chief J, another member of TakeOver, defeats him, defeats Swood, another member in the semifinals. He was the only remaining hope for TakeOver to win this, and they do. The clan score now goes TakeOver 2, Reddit Alpha 1.
Or Reddit Charlie, I guess really the Reddit clan.
Reddit 1,
right.
Yeah.
EsoPa, really consistent player. I kind of expect him to come back. Rainey, what do you think he could have done different there?
I think that EsoPa brought, now, it's so hard to tell because I really actually like his Goblin Barrel deck. I think that it is, you always have to ask the question is, it's executionally tough, right? What is the benefit that you gain from that? Obviously, for number one, not a lot of people see Goblin Barrel, so they're not gonna know how to play against it.
That's slight advantage.
But the thing is, you get to the finals and you get to the situation where he did with Flash, where now you have to play against a player who cannot just be taken by surprise, right? Flash is solid, Flash has good execution, he knows how to handle these situations. He's prepared. But I still think that there's a chance that that deck can really do well. The question is it too tough to do consistently, to execute consistently for it to be worth it? Is it worth the risk?
All right.
Okay. Well, not only is Flash taking home $2,000 in a trip to go to the Crown Duels, but his name will be remembered throughout Clash
Yeah,
history.
forever. Literally.
Flash,
It's the internet.
Clash.
Nothing leaves.
It's perfect.
And again, if you guys, if the 16 players, 16 winners will go from here to the arena battles, where then it'll be whittled down just to 8 players to go into the Crown Duels, where first place is taking home $15,000 out of a total.
Super awesome trip.
That's right, of a $100,000 prize pool. So again, congratulations for now Flash being our 3rd winner. If you guys want to, participate and be a part of this, because again, we still have 13 more. Man, that was easy math and I failed it.
Yeah.
You're the looks.
So
You
true.
know, Rainey's
You're
the brains.
seeing the weakness.
Clash Royale Open.
We balance each other out. We have 13 more of these. Go over to ClashRoyaleOpen.com where you can sign up to be a part of these as well. Open qualifiers, again, over 500,000 people are coming in to join these events. Speaking of our next broadcast, it is happening tomorrow, Thursday the 27th, same time, 6 o'clock p.m. Do not miss it. And if you're part of it, best of luck to you guys. Yeah. Well, on behalf of everyone here at the Super Magical, oh my gosh, I almost plugged your thing. That's all done. On behalf of
It's Super Cell.
Again, the
Super
brand.
I think that's what you wanted to go with.
Definitely. Clash Royale North American Opens broadcasted here at the NG Studios in Burbank, California. That is Rumham and Rainey.
I'm Ella.
I'm Christian.
Have a most ridiculous night.
You know, the secret is
Yeah.
I'm not actually the